The evening at the Krusty Krab began come many others before it, with a slow shift in the atmosphere as the day settled into a quieter rhythm. Inside the restaurant, the lights came on gradually, filling the room with a steady and uniform brightness that reflected off the metal surfaces of the tables and equipment. SpongeBob arrived in the kitchen with his usual energy, but instead of moving in fast little bursts, he settled into a more methodical pace. He arranged his tools, checked the grill temperature, straightened the containers of lettuce, tomatoes, and cheese, and made sure the buns were stocked in the warming drawer. Even if everything was already in perfect order, he went through each step to make sure the start of the shift felt predictable and controlled. He preferred when the kitchen entered its rhythm slowly, giving him time to prepare mentally for the work ahead. Out in the dining area, Squidward stood behind the register. He adjusted the receipts, organized the napkin dispenser, and made small corrections to the angle of the menus on the counter. His movements were slow and steady, driven more by habit than enthusiasm, but the routine helped him settle into the shift. He looked around the empty room and listened to the low hum of the lights and the very faint sound of water moving outside the thick windows. The calm before the customers arrived was often the only moment when he felt the restaurant wasn't demanding something from him, so he used those minutes to ground himself before the noise of the evening rush inevitably took over. Mr. Krabs stepped out of his office and took a slow walk through the restaurant, checking each table, each chair, and each detail that might influence the customer's impression of the place. He paid attention to small things, like whether a salt shaker was slightly off-center or whether a table leg wobbled when touched. He wanted every part of the restaurant ready for business. He listened to the sounds of the building, from the low vibration of the kitchen equipment to the faint clicks of Squidward pressing buttons on the register. Every sound was familiar to him and formed part of the routine he knew so well. The steady mechanical noises reassured him that the restaurant was ready to earn money, and that was all he needed to start the evening with a good mood. Outside, the first customers began to approach. Their silhouettes appeared through the front windows as they walked across the sandy ground that surrounded the building. The sound of their steps was muffled by the water, but it still reached the interior with a soft, rhythmic pattern. SpongeBob heard the door creak open from the kitchen and straightened up a little more, ready for the first wave of activity. Squidward turned his head toward the entrance, watching the customers enter and choose their tables. The shift truly began the moment people started moving inside the room, bringing with them the distinct mix of voices, shifting, chairs, and small movements that filled the restaurant. As the customers settled into their seats, the overall noise level increased slowly but steadily. Chairs scraped against the floor, trays bumped lightly against tabletops, and the first murmurs of conversation spread across the room. It wasn't chaotic yet, but it was enough to signal that the quiet part of the evening was over. SpongeBob heard the first order slip print from the small machine near the grill and reached for it automatically. The paper was warm from the machine, and he didn't even need to read the words to recognize the standard order of a Krabby Patty with the usual sides. He started preparing it immediately, letting his hands move according to a sequence he had repeated countless times. The sound of the grill heating up became stronger as he placed the patty down, and a thin wave of steam rose gently from the surface. In the dining room, Squidward began handling the early customers, processing their orders, directing them to tables, and handing out cups and trays. The flow was still manageable, with pauses between each group, but the pace was picking up steadily. Mr. Krabs remained near the front for a moment longer, listening carefully to the building wave of customer activity. Every new voice, Every sound of coins dropping into the register and every rustle of bills being stored made him feel more satisfied. The evening was shaping up to be a productive one. The restaurant continued to fill at a calm but constant rate. Families settled around tables, friends gathered near the windows, and individual customers took their time examining the menu boards before stepping up to order. The soundscape of the Krusty Krab grew richer with every passing minute, creating the familiar environment that defined the evening shift. The building warmed slightly from the combined heat of the grill, the lights, and the number of people inside, giving the entire space a consistent and steady atmosphere. Everyone fell into their roles naturally, and the start of the evening progressed with a smooth, reliable rhythm. The first rush of the evening began in a steady and predictable way, as it always did at the Krusty Krab during this time of day. Customers kept entering through the front door in small groups, and each arrival added new layers of movement and sound to the interior of the restaurant. Chairs shifted against the floor as people sat at different tables, and the low hum of conversation started to build up, spreading from one side of the room to the other. Nothing was chaotic yet, but the change was noticeable. The air felt more active. The space felt smaller, not in a cramped way, but in the way a room feels when it begins to fill with bodies and routine activity. Squidward positioned himself at the register and prepared for the increase in orders. He organized the receipts again, not because they needed to be organized, but because it helped him maintain a sense of order before things grew too busy. His tentacles moved mechanically as he tapped the register keys to ensure everything was functioning correctly. Every beep from the machine confirmed that he was ready for the upcoming tasks. The customers formed a short line in front of him, and even though he was not enthusiastic about the job, he went through each step with controlled precision. His breathing stayed even, and his posture remained steady. The start of the rush was always easier to handle because it allowed him to settle into the repetitive cycle of taking orders, registering transactions, and handing out trays. In the kitchen, SpongeBob felt the rhythm of the shift tighten. The order machine printed tickets at a faster pace, filling the small metal cue bar with slips of paper that listed the incoming meals. SpongeBob took each one in order, scanned the items, and moved quickly around the kitchen. Despite the speed, his actions remained grounded and methodical. He grabbed buns from the warmer, patties from their container, and vegetables from the neatly arranged station in front of him. He placed each patty on the grill, listening to the sound of the sizzle as the meat hit the hot surface. The grill released a steady wave of heat, warming the air around him and creating a thin layer of steam above the cooking area. He monitored the food carefully, flipping the patties at the right moment and assembling each sandwich with the same structure and consistency he maintained every day. Every Krabby Patty looked almost identical to the one before it, because SpongeBob insisted on complete uniformity. He stacked them neatly on trays, adding fries and drinks as the orders required. The familiar sounds of the kitchen surrounded him constantly. The clicking timer on the fryer, the soft vibrations of the grill, the slight clatter of metal utensils, and the steady flow of the ventilation system overhead. All these noises formed a familiar environment that helped him stay focused and calm. As the customers began eating, the dining room took on its typical early evening energy. People shifted in, their seats leaned across tables to talk to others, and opened napkins with small tearing sounds. Ice rattled inside drink cups as customers lifted them and placed them back down. A few groups moved from the ordering line to the tables, creating a short sequence of footsteps that echoed slightly in the space between the front counter and the seating area. The soundscape was busy but controlled, made up of familiar actions performed by people who had visited the restaurant many times before. Mr. Krabs positioned himself near the front of the dining area to observe the customers. He watched how they interacted with the space, how long they stayed in line, and how quickly they found seats. He paid attention to the smallest details that might affect business, including how long customers waited for their food and whether they seemed satisfied with their meals. He listened closely to the ringing of the cash register, the sound that mattered to him the most. Every transaction, every small clink of coins, and every rustle of paper bills reinforced his sense of satisfaction. The evening was progressing smoothly, and he could already see that the flow of customers was strong enough to promise a successful night. Back in the kitchen, SpongeBob adjusted his rhythm as the number of orders increased. He positioned plates and buns in a way that allowed him to assemble multiple meals at once. He moved between the grill, the preparation station, and the fryer with practiced efficiency. The warmth of the kitchen intensified as more patties cooked at once, and the sizzling sound became a constant background noise. He wiped a small patch of condensation from the edge of the counter and continued working, making sure the surfaces remained clean and organized. He did not rush, even as the tickets stacked higher. Instead, he maintained a consistent pace that allowed him to keep control over the workflow. Squidward handled the growing line of customers with his usual mix of patience and indifference. The line grew longer as more people entered, and the space near the register became more crowded. He maintained a regular pace, processing each order, handing out change, and directing customers to the pickup area. Although he preferred quieter moments, he understood that the early rush always brought this predictable cycle. The customers in line shifted their weight from foot to foot, made small gestures as they waited, and occasionally adjusted their belongings. The sound of continuous movement filled the air around the counter, blending with the noise of the kitchen just behind him. The dining area became progressively louder as more customers began eating. Trays slid across tables, cups clattered gently, and groups talked among themselves in overlapping conversations. The sound was not overwhelming, but it was steady and thick, filling all spaces of the restaurant. Customers moved their chairs closer to the tables, creating small scraping sounds. Some people leaned back in their seats, causing the chair legs to make soft thuds on the floor. The noise came in waves, rising and falling without abrupt spikes, forming a stable and lively environment. SpongeBob continued assembling orders with increasing speed, but without losing precision. He added ketchup, mustard, pickles, and onions in the exact order he always used. He checked the fries in the fryer basket, lifting them to examine their color and texture. When they reached the right level of crispness, he poured them into the metal container and added a light amount of salt. He worked in a flow that kept the kitchen organized even under pressure. Each action led naturally to the next, forming a continuous sequence from one task to another. Mr. Krabs left his position near the front and walked slowly through the restaurant, observing how many tables were occupied. Most of the seats were filled now, and a few customers stood near the entrance waiting for a table to open. This sight pleased him, and he took a moment to stand still and take in the busy atmosphere. He watched SpongeBob through the service window, noting how efficiently he handled the increasing volume of orders. He glanced toward Squidward, who continued processing customers with the same consistent rhythm. Everything appeared stable, which reassured him that the evening would continue smoothly. As the rush reached its first peak, the interior of the restaurant reached its fullest sound level so far. The steady hum of conversation, the activity in the kitchen, and the movement of customers blended into a single continuous sound that filled every corner of the room. SpongeBob adjusted the placement of finished orders on the counter so Squidward could pick them up easily. The trays clattered lightly when set down, adding to the continuous noise pattern. Customers waiting for their orders stood near the counter, watching SpongeBob work and forming a small cluster that added to the density of the space. Despite the increasing noise and movement, SpongeBob maintained his steady pace. He felt the pressure of the moment, but it was the kind of pressure he understood and managed well. He stayed focused on the food, checking each detail before sending out the trays. The grill continued to produce the same steady sizzling sound, and the fryer emitted a low bubbling noise as new batches of fries cooked. The kitchen air grew warmer and thicker from the heat and steam, but SpongeBob worked comfortably within it. By this point, Squidward noticed that the line had stabilized. It was still long, but it no longer grew. Instead, it maintained a steady length as new customers replaced those who had already ordered. He continued his work, scanning the room occasionally to anticipate any issues. He observed a few children running short distances around their tables, though they never caused trouble. He noticed customers waving for refills or napkins, but he understood that they were not his responsibility unless they approached the counter. His job remained simple and repetitive, and he found a certain sense of calm in that repetition. Mr. Krabs returned to the front to listen again to the cash register. The rhythm of the register opening and closing became more frequent, and each sound reassured him that the restaurant was performing well that evening. He kept an eye on the balance of movement, checking whether tables were turning quickly enough and whether customers seemed satisfied after their meals. Meanwhile, the customers continued eating at a steady pace. Some finished quickly and left trays stacked neatly on their tables. Others remained longer, eating slowly and talking among themselves. Each table created its own pattern of sounds, from the tapping of utensils to the shifting of cups, blending into the larger noise of the restaurant. Although the rush was still strong, SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs had settled into their roles completely. The first peak of the evening rush had arrived, and everything inside the Krusty Krab was running with the familiar, steady motion that defined the busiest hours of the night. The activity inside the Krusty Krab continued to rise in a gradual but undeniable way. What had started as a simple buildup of customers at the beginning of the shift was now turning into a full and steady flow that filled every corner of the restaurant. The early groups had been replaced by new ones, and each table taken by diners earlier in the evening now held different guests, creating a constant rotation of movement across the entire dining area. The rhythm inside the restaurant had changed from a controlled start-of-shift pulse to the sustained pattern of a fully active evening service. Everything in the building responded accordingly, adopting a pace that was slightly faster, slightly heavier, and noticeably more crowded. SpongeBob maintained his position in the kitchen with complete focus. The grill was covered with patties arranged in an organized pattern, each placed in a specific spot to help him keep track of their cooking times. He lifted the spatula repeatedly, flipping patties, adjusting their placement, and checking their doneness with small, precise motions. The constant sizzling of the meat had become a continuous layer of sound that blended with the other noises around him. He barely noticed the noise anymore. It was simply part of the environment he was accustomed to during every evening shift. The fryer bubbled at a consistent rate, releasing waves of hot air that mixed with the steam rising from the grill. The overhead ventilation hummed as it pulled the steam upward, forming the familiar kitchen atmosphere that SpongeBob found both warm and energizing. He organized several plates on the counter, placing buns on each one and preparing them for assembly. He took new order slips from the machine as soon as they were printed, reading them quickly and incorporating them into the sequence already in progress. He worked with a structured calmness, never rushing even when the orders increased. His pace remained consistent because he understood that maintaining a steady rhythm allowed him to handle large volumes without becoming overwhelmed. In the dining room, the number of customers had reached a point where almost every table was occupied. The sound level was higher than before, but it still maintained a balanced quality. People talked in overlapping conversations, creating a noise that filled the room evenly. Chairs continued to scrape against the floor as customers adjusted their seating positions, and trays made soft thumping sounds as diners placed them on the tables. The movement of people walking to and from the counter created a continuous flow through the center of the restaurant. The entrance door opened and closed frequently, each time releasing a brief creak that blended into the larger soundscape. Squidward stood at the front counter managing a line that extended from the register to near the entrance. He handled each customer in sequence, tapping the register keys, retrieving change, and handing out trays with the same consistent motion. His posture did not change despite the growing number of customers. He maintained a steady pace while keeping the line moving. The customers in line made their own small noises, such as shifting their weight, tapping their fingers on the counter, or adjusting items they carried. All these sounds were absorbed into the overall environment of the restaurant. The pickup area next to the counter became more crowded as customers waited for their food. People stood close to the wall, occasionally glancing toward the kitchen when they heard the clatter of trays being placed on the service counter. SpongeBob continued to produce meals at a high pace, sliding tray after tray into the pickup area. Each time he added a new order, the stack of trays shifted slightly and produced a soft scraping sound against the counter. Customers stepped forward one at a time to retrieve their meals when Squidward called out the next tray. The process repeated continuously, creating a steady cycle of movement between the kitchen and the dining room. Mr. Krabs walked around the restaurant, observing each part of the evening's flow. He noticed which tables were turning quickly and which customers seemed ready to leave soon. He paid attention to the behavior of the line and whether it showed signs of slowing down or increasing. He checked the levels of the trash bins, the condition of the condiment stations, and the positions of the employees. He found comfort in monitoring every detail as it allowed him to ensure that the restaurant was performing efficiently. Every sign of productivity pleased him, and he found satisfaction in witnessing the busy atmosphere that filled the restaurant. As more customers entered, the air inside the restaurant grew warmer from the combined heat of the kitchen equipment, the lighting, and the number of people present. The temperature change created a slightly denser environment, but it was not uncomfortable. Instead, it gave the room a sense of fullness that matched the level of activity. The smell of food drifted from the kitchen into the dining room, blending with the scent of French fries, soda, and the faint trace of cleaning supplies used earlier in the day. The combination created the distinct aroma of the Krusty Krab during peak hours. SpongeBob organized several new trays, placing completed burgers on each one and adding the required sides. He kept a close eye on the fryer, preparing each batch of fries with the same consistency. He moved quickly, but never sloppily, making sure each tray met the expected standard. He stacked trays in a neat row, allowing Squidward to distribute them with ease. The routine was predictable, but its speed demanded careful attention. SpongeBob made no mistakes, maintaining complete focus even when the flow of orders felt endless. Squidward continued processing customers, occasionally glancing toward the dining room to monitor whether any issues might require attention. The noise level remained steady, and the room appeared full but not chaotic. He noticed a few customers standing near tables waiting for seats to open, but they did not cause disruptions. The movement in the room showed signs of a healthy evening service, and despite his lack of enthusiasm, he appreciated the regularity of the workload. The trash bins near the tables filled quickly, and Mr. Krabs took note of this. He preferred to handle these routine tasks before they became noticeable problems. So he walked to the back of the restaurant to gather new trash liners. He returned to the dining room and replaced the bags swiftly, tying the full ones with practiced motions. He did not enjoy performing such tasks, but he understood their importance in maintaining the restaurant's appearance. The emptied bins provided customers with clean areas to dispose of their trash, contributing to the overall efficiency of the space. As the rush continued, the soundscape of the Krusty Krab stabilized into a continuous hum of activity. The noises blended so smoothly that no single sound stood out. The clatter of trays, the bubbling fryer, the sizzling grill, the footsteps of customers, and the register's mechanical clicking merged into a single tone that defined the busiest hours of the shift. SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs each worked in their own parts of the restaurant, creating a synchronized pattern of movements that kept everything running smoothly. SpongeBob adjusted the arrangement of patties on the grill, ensuring that each one cooked evenly. He wiped a small amount of grease from the edge of the grill with a quick, downward motion. He reached for fresh buns from the warmer, placing them on plates in a clean and organized line. The repetition allowed him to enter a focused state, where he felt completely in tune with the rhythm of the kitchen. The workload did not overwhelm him. Instead, it gave him a sense of purpose. The entire kitchen felt like a machine that operated smoothly, and he moved seamlessly within it. Squidward kept the line moving, even when customers hesitated or took longer to make their decisions. He maintained a steady pace, knowing that keeping the line flowing prevented congestion near the entrance. Customers occasionally stepped aside to gather their belongings or reorganize their trays, making small adjustments that produced quiet sounds. These slight interruptions had little impact on the overall efficiency of the evening service. The dining room continued to look full, with customers sitting close to one another, eating at a steady pace. Some groups finished their meals and began clearing their tables. They stacked trays and wiped small crumbs off the surfaces using napkins. The movement of these groups created a slow turnover of seats, allowing new customers to quickly occupy the recently vacated tables. The rhythm of people entering and leaving the restaurant remained consistent, sustaining the busy flow that characterized the peak of the rush. Mr. Krabs returned to the front of the restaurant to listen once again to the cash register. The sound of the drawer sliding open and shut occurred frequently now, and each instance strengthened his confidence in the evening's success. He glanced toward the kitchen, where SpongeBob continued to assemble orders with unwavering precision. He looked at the line of customers, which remained long but orderly. Everything pointed to a productive and profitable night. As the flow of customers persisted, the Krusty Krab reached a point where it operated at maximum efficiency. Each employee performed tasks that contributed to the larger system, and the restaurant functioned as a cohesive environment. The kitchen produced food continuously. The front counter handled orders without interruption. The dining room accommodated a constant rotation of customers. and the overall noise level stayed at a steady, reliable level that represented the core of the evening rush. Even though the workload remained heavy, the employees had settled into a rhythm that made the flow manageable. SpongeBob maintained his calm focus. Squidward continued his organized pace. Mr. Krabs monitored the space with calculated attention. The restaurant moved forward without hesitation, fully immersed in the most intense part of the night. The flow had increased, and the Krusty Krab was now in the center of its evening activity. The rush was far from over, but everything inside the restaurant functioned smoothly, supported by the experience and consistency of the team that kept the operation running without pause. The evening inside the Krusty Krab advanced into a phase where the earlier pace evolved into something heavier and more sustained. What had begun as a gradual build-up and then shifted into a steady flow now transformed into the dense, immersive heart of the dinner rush. The restaurant operated in a state of constant movement, with no visible pauses between one moment and the next. Every corner held activity, and every part of the building contributed to the collective momentum of the night. SpongeBob remained in the kitchen, positioned firmly in front of the grill, which was now completely covered with patties. The entire surface sizzled without interruption, producing a continuous wave of sound that filled the kitchen and spread into the dining room. He lifted the spatula again and again, flipping patties in an organized sequence that matched the rhythms he had developed over countless shifts. His movements were efficient, controlled, and automatic, yet far from careless. Each motion demonstrated a deep familiarity with the workload. The scent of grilled meat filled the kitchen, mixing with the heat from the fryer, which bubbled at a fast, steady pace as new batches of fries cooked. The fryer produced a constant white noise, a bubbling hum that added to the kitchen's layered soundscape. Steam rose from its surface, drifting upward into the ventilation hood, which hummed as it pulled the air away. The combination of sizzling, bubbling, and humming created an atmosphere that fully enveloped SpongeBob. He accepted it without distraction, working within it as naturally as if he were moving through still air. He took fresh buns from the warmer, split them cleanly, and laid them on plates that lined the counter. The plates were arranged in rows, each corresponding to a different order, and he kept track of them with complete clarity. Order slips continued to print from the machine, producing short mechanical clicks whenever a new slip appeared. SpongeBob reached for each new slip immediately, reading its contents and integrating it into the sequence of tasks he already managed. The flow of orders never slowed. The machine printed continuously, and the stack of slips waiting to be fulfilled never completely emptied. SpongeBob worked with the confidence of someone accustomed to this pace, unbothered by the constant demand. In the dining room, the customer presence had reached maximum density. Nearly every table was occupied, and many customers stood near the edges of the room, waiting for seats to open. People leaned against walls or stood near the condiment station with trays in their hands, scanning the room for empty spaces. The sounds of eating, talking, and moving combined into a single continuous noise that filled the entire space. The floorboards vibrated faintly under the constant movement of customers walking, shifting, and adjusting their chairs. The entrance door opened and closed repeatedly, barely staying shut for more than a few seconds. Each time it opened, a burst of sound from outside momentarily mixed with the interior noise, but it quickly dissolved into the thick atmosphere inside the restaurant. The smell of food filled the air, more intense now due to the increased volume of meals being prepared and served. The aroma drifted through the dining room, carried by the movement of customers as they passed through the space. Squidward stood at the register with a line of customers that extended far enough to bend around the corner near the entrance. The line maintained a dense formation, with customers standing close together to avoid blocking pathways. Squidward handled each transaction with mechanical precision. His hands moved across the register keys with steady speed, producing the familiar clicking sounds that punctuated the noise of the dining room. He counted change, pushed trays forward, and repeated the cycle dozens of times without pause. The pickup area next to the counter became increasingly crowded. Customers gathered tightly around it, waiting for their trays to appear. SpongeBob slid completed trays into the space at a rapid pace, and Squidward called out the orders as soon as they arrived. Customers stepped forward, collected their trays, and then moved to find seats. The cycle repeated constantly, and the pickup area never remained empty for more than a moment. Trays made soft thumps as they landed on the surface, accompanied by the rustling of wrappers and the shifting of paper bags. Mr. Krabs surveyed the room with an expression that mixed attention with satisfaction. He observed the long line, the full tables, and the steady stream of customers entering the restaurant. The noises told him everything he needed to know. The cash register opened frequently, producing soft metallic clicks that carried across the room, and he listened to each one with silent appreciation. He walked through the dining room slowly, checking for issues that might disrupt the evening's momentum. He straightened a few napkin dispensers, repositioned condiments, and ensured that the entrances to the seating areas remained clear. The trash bins near the dining room tables filled rapidly. When Mr. Krabs noticed this, he retrieved more trash liners from the storage area and replaced the bags before they overflowed. The motion of tying full bags and lifting them produced quiet, rustling sounds that blended into the surrounding activity. He moved quickly to avoid drawing attention, preferring to complete these tasks without disrupting the flow of customers. He reminded himself that small actions like these helped maintain the restaurant's reputation and efficiency. In the kitchen, SpongeBob continued working with consistent energy. His movements quickened slightly as he adjusted to the increased demand, yet he never rushed. He kept patties arranged in neat rows, flipping each one at the correct moment. He assembled burgers with precise, practiced steps. He added fries to baskets, lowered them into the fryer, and removed them when they reached the ideal crispness. He added salt with controlled, even motions. Everything he did had rhythm and consistency. His confidence was unshaken, and his focus remained sharp. The heat inside the kitchen increased as the equipment continued operating at full capacity. Warm air built around SpongeBob, but he accepted it as part of the job. Sweat formed lightly on his forehead, yet it never distracted him. He wiped it away with the back of his wrist when needed and continued working. The environment fueled his determination rather than hindering it. He placed more trays on the counter and organized them into a queue for Squidward. Each tray held a complete meal, arranged neatly and consistently across the line. The dining room maintained its density. Customers continued entering in a constant wave, replacing the groups that finished their meals and left. Some customers lingered at their tables as they finished their drinks or chatted among themselves, causing slight delays in the turnover of seats. Others cleared their tables quickly, stacking trays neatly before carrying them to the trash area. Movement across the room remained constant and layered, with people weaving around one another to reach open spaces. The overall noise level remained high but stable. It did not fluctuate abruptly because the room had reached a saturation point where the amount of sound produced remained relatively constant. The clattering of trays, the footsteps across the floor, the collective voices, and the sounds from the kitchen merged into a steady, continuous hum that defined the heart of the rush. Squidward maintained his usual posture, processing customers with the same consistent pace he had displayed throughout the shift. His attention drifted occasionally toward the pickup area to ensure that no trays piled up without being claimed. Customers approached the register with a variety of small behaviors, adjusting their wallets, reorganizing objects in their hands, or shifting their feet as they waited. These small, repetitive actions added subtle layers to the sound environment, though none of them interrupted the flow of service. Mr. Krabs continued circulating through the restaurant, stepping between tables and maneuvering around customers standing near the walls. He inspected the condition of the floors, making sure no spills or messes had been left unattended. He checked the condensation around the drink station and adjusted the cups to ensure they were arranged neatly. He tightened lids on the ketchup bottles, wiping any residue that might cause them to appear unclean. Each detail mattered to him because he understood that the restaurant's reputation relied on maintaining a polished and orderly environment even during the busiest hours. As the peak activity sustained itself, the Krusty Krab operated in a state that felt almost suspended in time. The outside world seemed distant, as though the rest of the ocean existed far away from the concentrated environment inside the restaurant. The activities repeated in endless cycles, customers entering, ordering, collecting their trays, sitting, eating, clearing their tables and leaving. SpongeBob cooking, Squidward processing orders, and Mr. Krabs monitoring every area. The restaurant functioned as a unified system, where each part worked together seamlessly. SpongeBob replenished the grill with fresh patties as soon as space opened. He arranged them in clean rows, each one sizzling immediately upon touching the hot surface. He prepared new buns, set aside fresh lettuce and tomatoes, and checked the supply of condiments to ensure nothing ran low during the rush. He adjusted his pace again, making small changes to accommodate variations in the flow of orders. His attention never drifted, and his confidence remained constant. The dining room's density persisted long after the initial dinner hour passed. Customers lingered, new customers arrived, and the line at the register remained long. The evening carried the sense of a rush that might last for quite some time. But the employees had settled into the rhythm so thoroughly that the workload felt manageable, even at its highest intensity. The heart of the rush had fully formed, and the Krusty Krab continued to move with the momentum of a restaurant operating at peak capacity. Every part of the building was alive with activity, each moment flowing seamlessly into the next as the evening advanced deeper into its busiest hours. The intense rhythm of the evening continued without interruption, settling into a pattern that felt almost unbroken from the moment the rush began. The Krusty Krab functioned as a single system, its many components working together without pause, each contributing to the overwhelming yet controlled environment that defined the busiest hours of the night. The lights remained bright and steady, illuminating every corner of the restaurant with a warm, uniform glow. This brightness enhanced the reflections on the stainless steel counters, the gleaming surfaces of trays, and the subtle movements across the room. Despite the consistent lighting, the atmosphere felt heavier now, shaped by the weight of ongoing activity. SpongeBob continued working at the grill, which had operated at full capacity for so long that its heat radiated outward with greater intensity. The air in the kitchen grew thicker and warmer, holding the smell of cooked patties, toasted buns, and fried oil. Despite this increasing heat, SpongeBob worked without hesitation. His movements remained steady and fluid, driven by routine rather than rush. He flipped patties, set them aside, prepared new ones, and continued assembling burgers in long, uninterrupted sequences. He managed the patties in organized rows, removing each one at the precise moment it reached perfect doneness. The spatula struck the grill with consistent, rhythmic sounds that blended with the hiss of steam rising from the sizzling surface. Order slips continued to appear from the machine, printing so frequently that the small clacking noise became a continuous presence rather than separate sounds. SpongeBob pulled each slip from the machine, scanned it quickly, and integrated the order into his mental system. He lined plates across the counter, moving from one task to the next with confidence. The fryer bubbled with constant intensity as he lowered basket after basket of fries into the oil. The bubbling created a deep, steady background noise that reinforced the sense of ongoing activity. He pulled fries from the oil, let the excess drip off, and arranged them alongside the assembled patties. He added salt to each batch with a motion so practiced that he barely noticed doing it. The dining room remained near maximum capacity, filled with customers in constant motion. People walked between tables, balancing trays or adjusting their seating. Chairs scraped lightly across the floor, producing irregular sounds that repeated across the room. The mix of voices blended into a vibrant, layered hum that filled the air entirely. Each person contributed to the collective noise with every movement, every shift in posture, and every small action that occurred within the space. The brightness of the room highlighted each detail: the movement of napkins, the arrangement of condiments, and the slight reflections on the tile floor where the light caught the surface. Squidward continued operating the register, facing a line of customers that showed no signs of shortening. The line extended toward the entrance, bending around the corner where new customers continued entering the restaurant in steady intervals. Squidward pressed the register keys with consistent speed, producing short mechanical beeps that signaled each completed step of the transaction. The cash drawer opened frequently, and the metallic click accompanied by the soft friction of bills sliding against one another created a distinct pattern of sound. He handed out trays, processed payments, and maintained his position at the counter without pause. The pickup area remained crowded, with customers gathering around it as tightly as the available space allowed. They leaned over the counter in anticipation, waiting for their orders to appear. SpongeBob pushed trays into the pickup area in a constant stream, and each tray landed with a muted thump on the surface. Wrappers rustled as customers picked up their meals. Cups tapped against trays as they moved through the crowd. People stepped aside once they collected their food, weaving between other customers as they returned to their seats. Mr. Krabs walked through the dining room with a determined but measured pace. He observed every detail, from the flow of customers to the turnover of tables. He adjusted chairs, wiped down small smudges on tabletops, and ensured that everything remained in proper order. He listened closely to the sounds of the room, attuned to the subtle indicators of how the evening progressed. The cash register continued opening at frequent intervals, and the sound of coins dropping into the drawer carried across the room. The noise reassured him of the evening's success. He moved through the room without interfering with the overall activity, always careful to avoid blocking pathways or disrupting customers. Trash bins filled steadily as customers disposed of their wrappers, cups, and napkins. When they reached capacity, Mr. Krabs removed the bags, tied them off, and replaced them with new liners. The soft crackling of plastic bags accompanied these actions. He carried the full bags to the back storage area, ensuring they remained out of sight. He completed his tasks with urgency but without haste, understanding that the success of the evening depended on maintaining efficiency and cleanliness. In the kitchen, SpongeBob replenished ingredients as needed. He retrieved new baskets of fries when the supply ran low, filled containers with fresh lettuce and tomatoes, and reorganized the counter whenever space became limited. He maintained control over the entire cooking process, managing multiple components simultaneously without losing track of any single element. The kitchen felt warmer than ever, yet SpongeBob remained comfortable within the intensity of the environment. He embraced the pace, knowing that the rush demanded his full focus and energy. Customers continued to move through the dining room in waves. Some remained seated for long periods, enjoying their meals at a steady pace. Others ate quickly and cleared their tables within minutes. Each time a table opened, another customer immediately claimed it. The movement of people created a dynamic energy within the room, with individuals weaving around one another to reach the condiment stations, the trash area, or newly available seats. The general atmosphere conveyed a sense of momentum that carried through every moment of the evening. Squidward occasionally glanced toward the pickup area to monitor the volume of orders. He kept the line moving by processing customers efficiently, ensuring that the waiting time remained reasonable despite the high demand. The register area became a focal point of the restaurant, with constant activity radiating from it. Customers approached the counter, stepped aside once they received their trays, and returned to the dining room in a continuous loop. The external environment outside the Krusty Krab barely registered in comparison to the intensity inside. The windows allowed faint hints of the underwater world to filter through, slight movements in the water, subtle shifts in light, but these details remained overshadowed by the concentration of activity within the restaurant. The interior felt isolated from the outside world, shaped completely by the constant movement and noise produced by customers and employees. Mr. Krabs paused occasionally near the register, watching the money accumulate and listening to the consistent opening and closing of the cash drawer. He took a moment to straighten the stack of bills, then returned to his rounds in the dining room. He inspected the corners of the room where fewer people passed, checking for any debris or spills that might have gone unnoticed. He remained attentive to every detail, confident that the success of the evening depended not only on the volume of customers, but also on maintaining the restaurant's standards. Meanwhile, the kitchen continued operating at full intensity. SpongeBob moved between the grill, the fryer, and the counter with practiced efficiency. He assembled burgers, salted fries, prepared trays, and organized plates. His focus never wavered, and his energy remained strong. He understood that the rush demanded consistency, and he delivered it without hesitation. The sound of sizzling patties, bubbling oil, and clattering trays surrounded him constantly. He worked within the noise without being distracted by it. The evening progressed deeper into its busiest phase. The room maintained its density, and the energy remained high. Despite the intensity, the employees continued their work with steady determination. SpongeBob kept the kitchen moving. Squidward processed orders, and Mr. Krabs oversaw every detail. The rush showed no signs of slowing, but the staff remained prepared for whatever the evening demanded. The Krusty Krab stood as a hub of activity, completely absorbed in the momentum of the night. Every sound, movement, and action contributed to the rhythm of the evening, creating an environment defined by constant motion and continuous effort. The weight of the night settled over the restaurant, yet the staff maintained control, guiding the experience with steady and practiced hands. The Krusty Krab continued to operate at a pace that felt relentless, yet familiar. The kind of evening where every movement, every sound, and every task became part of a continuous loop. Customers moved through the restaurant with a rhythm of their own, walking past tables, adjusting chairs, and navigating the spaces between other diners. The movement was constant but not chaotic. It flowed naturally, like a current guiding everyone in the same direction. The space was filled with overlapping sounds, the clatter of trays, the scraping of chairs, the soft tapping of cutlery on plates, and the hum of conversation. Each layer added depth to the environment without ever overwhelming it. SpongeBob worked at the grill with unwavering focus. His movements were precise and measured, each flip of a patty or adjustment of a bun executed exactly at the right moment. The sizzle of meat hidden in the hot metal became a constant background to his actions, blending with the bubbling of the fryer and the faint hum of the ventilation system above. He monitored the timing of every item, ensuring fries were removed at the perfect moment, burgers cooked evenly, and buns toasted to the right level. Despite the growing pace of the evening, he maintained control, moving through the kitchen with the efficiency of someone who had performed this routine countless times. The order machine continued printing tickets at a steady rate, each slip pushing SpongeBob to act quickly but methodically. He scanned each ticket, organized the items in his mind, and began assembling the meals without hesitation. The kitchen was a tightly coordinated system, with every element in motion. The heat of the equipment created a dense warmth, but he adapted naturally, the environment forming a backdrop rather than a distraction. Steam rose steadily from the grill and fryer, carrying the familiar scent of fried potatoes, toasted buns, and sizzling patties through the air. It mixed with the faint chemical smell of cleaning products lingering from earlier, creating a layered sensory environment he had long since become accustomed to. Squidward operated the register efficiently, standing at the counter with an expression of minimal concern, but precise attention. The line of customers extended toward the entrance, yet he moved through each transaction without pause. His tentacles tapped the register keys in a smooth, repetitive rhythm. The drawer opened, bills shuffled, coins clinked, and trays were handed out systematically. He kept an eye on the pickup area, ensuring no trays piled up or went unnoticed. Though the volume of customers had increased substantially since the start of the shift, Squidward remained perfectly attuned to the flow, adjusting his pace slightly when necessary but never losing control. The pickup area was a zone of concentrated movement, where customers congregated in anticipation of their meals. They leaned forward slightly, eyes focused on the counter, waiting for their orders to appear. SpongeBob pushed tray after tray toward the edge, each landing with a soft thump. Wrappers crinkled as customers picked up sandwiches and fries, and cups lightly tapped trays as they were moved to the dining area. The process was continuous, forming a seamless cycle that repeated endlessly. Each participant, from the staff to the customers, contributed to the rhythm, creating a self-sustaining pattern of motion and sound. Mr. Krabs moved through the dining room with measured observation, his eyes scanning every table and corner. He noted which tables had finished meals, which customers were lingering, and which areas of the restaurant might require attention. He adjusted chairs and straightened condiments when needed, taking care to perform these actions without disturbing the flow. He listened to the register, the clinking of coins, and the mechanical clicks of transactions, interpreting these sounds as indicators of efficiency and profitability. Each successful interaction reassured him that the restaurant was operating at peak performance. Trash bins were monitored closely. As they filled, Mr. Krabs replaced the liners, tying off full bags and removing them to the back storage area. The soft rustle of plastic bags blended into the overall soundscape, becoming another element of the continuous activity. Even these small, seemingly mundane tasks contributed to the functioning of the restaurant. Every detail mattered. The cleanliness of the tables, the arrangement of the menus, the presence of napkins, and the smooth operation of the kitchen all combined to create the experience of the evening. SpongeBob's attention never wavered, even as the volume of orders and the density of the dining room increased. He maintained the arrangement of the grill, ensuring patties cooked evenly and were removed at the proper moment. He assembled burgers and fries with precision, ensuring each meal met the high standard of consistency. He organized trays in the order they were needed, preventing any confusion or bottlenecks. The kitchen was a hub of activity, yet each action flowed into the next naturally, forming a continuous and controlled stream of labor. The dining room was full and vibrant, filled with overlapping human activity. Some customers lingered longer, finishing drinks or conversing quietly. Others completed their meals quickly, vacating tables for new arrivals. Movement was constant. No table remained empty for long. People navigated the room carefully to avoid collisions, walking around chairs and customers with an unspoken awareness of spatial flow. The resultant sound, a mix of footsteps, scraping chairs, conversation, and tray movement, created a dense, immersive background that defined the environment. Squidward maintained his vigilance at the register. He monitored the flow of the line while processing each order in sequence. Customers exhibited small but noticeable behaviors, shifting weight, tapping fingers, adjusting belongings. These details formed an intricate part of the operational rhythm. Every person contributed to the larger system, consciously or not, and Squidward adapted to these inputs with minimal effort. The pickup area never became clogged. The trays were always accounted for, and the pace of service remained uninterrupted. Mr. Krabs observed the overall performance of the evening with satisfaction. He noted which areas needed adjustment and which tables required intervention. The register continued to open and close rhythmically, a constant reminder of the restaurant's productivity. Each time the drawer slid open, coins jingled softly, and bills shifted slightly, providing reassurance that the evening remained profitable. He made small interventions when necessary, straightening condiments, adjusting chairs, and monitoring trash bins. His presence was deliberate, controlled, and entirely focused on sustaining the flow. In the kitchen, SpongeBob remained a model of efficiency. He moved with confidence between the grill, fryer, and counter, never hesitating or losing rhythm. He monitored multiple tasks simultaneously, flipping patties, managing fry batches, assembling trays, and replenishing supplies. Steam rose from the grill and fryer, filling the kitchen with warmth and moisture. The layered sounds, the sizzling, bubbling, clattering, and clicking, formed a continuous backdrop that guided his actions rather than distracting him. Each task completed led seamlessly into the next, creating a fluid sequence that made the intensity manageable. The flow of the dining room continued without pause. Customers entered, ordered, collected their trays, and navigated to available tables. Chairs were adjusted, trays moved, utensils tapped, and cups were repositioned repeatedly. Every table generated its own minor contributions to the overall activity, which accumulated into a continuous, unified rhythm. The Krusty Krab functioned as a living system, each individual action merging with another to create an ongoing, self-sustaining environment. Trash management remained consistent. Mr. Krabs replaced full bags, ensuring the bins remained available to customers. He walked carefully through the spaces between occupied tables, performing these tasks without interfering with the flow of traffic. The rustling of bags and soft thumps of discarded items blended into the room's hum, barely noticeable yet essential to maintaining a clean and organized environment. SpongeBob continued assembling orders with precision and care. Each tray moved from the preparation area to the pickup area, then into the hands of waiting customers. The speed of his work adapted seamlessly to the ongoing rhythm, never falling behind despite the density of activity. He moved efficiently, flipping patties, adding sides, and ensuring every component was in its proper place. His workflow created a predictable, stable rhythm that allowed the kitchen to operate smoothly even during the heaviest periods. Squidward remained focused, processing the line of customers with unbroken attention. Each transaction was executed cleanly, each tray delivered promptly. He scanned the room occasionally to anticipate changes, prepared for variations in the speed of service, and adapted as necessary. The pickup area remained organized, the trays never stacked too high, and the flow of customers to tables continued unhindered. His efficiency allowed the restaurant to maintain its momentum without interruption. Mr. Krabs circulated throughout the restaurant with consistent attention, monitoring both the dining room and kitchen. He moved deliberately, inspecting tables, observing customer behavior, and listening to the register and kitchen sounds. Every sound, every motion, every small detail contributed to his understanding of the overall performance of the evening. He intervened when necessary, maintaining the balance and smooth functioning of the restaurant. The Krusty Krab was operating at peak capacity, with every element working in harmony under his observation. The evening had deepened, and the flow of activity showed no signs of slowing. Customers continued entering, the line remained long, and the kitchen never paused. SpongeBob worked in continuous motion. Squidward processed every transaction, and Mr. Krabs maintained vigilant oversight. The Krusty Krab existed as a self-sustaining system, each part functioning in coordination with the others. Every sound, every movement, every minor adjustment contributed to the rhythm of the evening, creating an environment defined by relentless yet controlled motion. The Krusty Krab had settled into a state of sustained motion, a seamless flow where every movement, every sound, and every task blended into a continuous pattern. The restaurant's rhythm had become dense, almost self-sufficient, with SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs performing their roles in perfect synchronization. The evening's peak had arrived, and the building now vibrated with the energy of a fully occupied dining room and a kitchen operating at maximum capacity. The air was thick with heat, steam, and the rich scent of cooking food, layered with the subtler smells of cleaning agents and the ocean beyond the walls. SpongeBob moved with unbroken focus at the grill, his spatula flashing with practiced precision. Patties flipped at consistent intervals, each one cooking to the exact degree required. He monitored buns in the warmer, toasted them lightly before arranging them on plates, and added fresh lettuce, tomatoes, and pickles in precise order. The fryer bubbled continuously, producing long lines of golden fries that were carefully salted and arranged on each tray. The kitchen's machinery hummed, clicked, and vibrated steadily, blending into the background as SpongeBob operated with seamless efficiency. Each completed tray was pushed into the pickup area in orderly sequence, ready for Squidward to distribute to waiting customers. Squidward remained stationed at the register, managing the unbroken flow of customers with mechanical precision. His tentacles moved across the keys without hesitation, producing a steady rhythm of beeps and clicks. Bills and coins were handled with exactness. Trays were handed out promptly, and the line of customers barely diminished as new patrons continued entering. He scanned the room periodically, anticipating moments when the pickup area might become congested or when a table might require attention. Despite the volume of activity, his pace remained consistent, and the system he managed continued to function smoothly. The dining room was full, dense with movement and sound. Customers shifted in their chairs, balanced trays in their hands, and navigated the narrow spaces between tables with careful precision. The scraping of chairs against the floor, the gentle clatter of utensils, and the low hum of overlapping conversations created a layered, continuous soundscape. The flow of people entering and leaving remained constant, providing a rhythm that defined the pace of the evening. Patrons moved naturally, following the subtle patterns established by previous visitors, creating a sense of controlled motion that threaded through the room. Mr. Krabs moved deliberately through the restaurant, observing every detail with practiced attention. He checked the placement of condiments, the alignment of menus, and the cleanliness of tabletops. Trash bins were monitored and replaced as needed. The rustling of liners and the soft thud of discarded wrappers absorbed seamlessly into the larger sound environment. He listened closely to the register, interpreting the repeated mechanical clicks and metallic jingles as indicators of the restaurant's ongoing success. Each successful transaction, each smoothly processed order reassured him that the evening was unfolding according to plan. The kitchen's warmth intensified, compounded by the continuous operation of the grill and fryer, the movement of SpongeBob, and the heat radiating from the body of the restaurant itself. Steam rose from cooking surfaces in persistent clouds, creating a tangible layer of moisture in the air. SpongeBob navigated this environment effortlessly, adjusting his motions to accommodate both the heat and the constant flow of incoming orders. He monitored multiple components simultaneously: burgers on the grill, buns in the warmer, fry batches in the fryer, and assembled trays ready for delivery. The rhythm of his movements formed a predictable pattern, providing stability amid the constant demands of the rush. The pickup area was alive with activity. Customers gathered closely, anticipating their meals, leaning forward slightly to catch the edge of each tray as it appeared. SpongeBob slid each tray into the designated spot, producing soft thumps against the counter. Wrappers rustled, cups shifted slightly, and the faint clatter of cutlery added to the ongoing soundscape. Patrons stepped aside as soon as they collected their food, moving toward available tables with the unspoken understanding of shared space. The cycle repeated endlessly, with new customers arriving as others finished their meals. Squidward managed this flow with quiet efficiency. He monitored each tray's placement, ensured the line moved steadily, and anticipated when adjustments were needed to prevent congestion. His movements were deliberate and measured, designed to maintain a smooth rhythm rather than to react hastily. He observed the dining room, noting small behavioral patterns of customers, how they leaned, shifted, and moved through the restaurant. Each detail informed the management of the flow, and his adjustments, though subtle, kept the evening operating without interruption. Mr. Krabs continued his rounds through the dining area, paying attention to both customers and staff. He straightened chairs, repositioned napkins, and ensured trash bins remained accessible. He listened to the hum of conversation, the clatter of trays, and the mechanical sounds from the kitchen and register. These combined sounds formed a constant background that guided his movements and decisions. He remained focused on maintaining the balance of activity, ensuring that no area fell out of sync with the rest of the restaurant's operations. The density of the dining room created a sense of fullness in every moment. Patrons navigated carefully between occupied tables, avoiding collisions and finding their paths through narrow spaces. The movement generated subtle, continuous sounds: footsteps, the shifting of trays, the soft scraping of chairs. These sounds layered with conversations and the mechanical noises of service, forming a complex yet cohesive environment. Each person contributed to the overall flow, consciously or unconsciously participating in a larger system that defined the rhythm of the evening. In the kitchen, SpongeBob maintained unbroken focus. He monitored the grill, adjusted the spacing of patties, and flipped them at precise intervals. He removed fries from the fryer, drained them, salted them, and placed them onto trays alongside the assembled burgers. The sequence of actions repeated in steady cycles, each step flowing into the next without pause. Heat, steam, and movement defined the kitchen space, creating an environment that demanded precision, concentration, and continuous adaptation. SpongeBob worked within this space effortlessly, moving with the rhythm of the evening. Trash management remained a subtle but essential part of the evening's flow. Mr. Krabs removed full bins, replaced liners, and moved discarded items to the storage area with deliberate care. The rustling of plastic and the soft thud of discarded wrappers became part of the ongoing ambient sound. His movements were precise, contributing to the overall efficiency of the restaurant without disrupting the rhythm of activity. Every small task was part of a larger system that allowed the evening to unfold smoothly. The temperature inside the Krusty Krab remained warm, influenced by the combined heat of the kitchen equipment, the body heat of the customers, and the energy radiating from continuous activity. Despite this warmth, the environment remained manageable, and every employee adapted naturally. SpongeBob moved with purpose. Squidward processed orders with minimal delay, and Mr. Krabs maintained vigilant oversight. Together, they created an ecosystem of work that sustained the intensity of the evening. The dining room maintained a high level of density, with every table occupied and every aisle filled with movement. Customers engaged in small behaviors that contributed to the rhythm of the space, adjusting their seating, balancing trays, or conversing quietly. Each table produced unique patterns of sound, yet all merged into the continuous hum that defined the atmosphere. Movement between tables and the pickup area remained fluid, ensuring that the flow of the evening continued uninterrupted. Squidward monitored the line and the pickup area closely. He adjusted the timing of tray handoffs, processed payments efficiently, and maintained a steady pace. His attention was precise, allowing him to prevent bottlenecks and maintain the flow of service. The combination of order and efficiency in his movements contributed to the smooth operation of the restaurant. Patrons experienced a seamless cycle from ordering to eating, supported by Squidward's careful management. SpongeBob continued to assemble orders with exacting attention. Each tray included precisely prepared components: cooked patties, toasted buns, freshly salted fries, and neatly arranged drinks. He maintained the pace without error, integrating new orders into the sequence as they appeared. The kitchen remained organized and structured, functioning as a continuous system that supported the intensity of the evening. Steam, heat, sizzling sounds, and bubbling oil surrounded him as constant companions, shaping the environment of the peak rush. Mr. Krabs moved strategically through the restaurant, maintaining oversight of both the dining room and the kitchen. He observed every detail, from the alignment of tables and chairs to the behavior of customers and the workflow of staff. He adjusted minor details without disturbing the overall pattern of activity, ensuring that the environment remained controlled. Each sound, the register, the trays, the clattering of utensils provided feedback on the efficiency of the evening's operation. He responded subtly, keeping the flow uninterrupted. The Krusty Krab had reached a state where the evening's momentum was almost self-sustaining. Each employee, each customer, and each element of the space contributed to a continuous and cohesive flow. SpongeBob's work maintained the kitchen's production, Squidward controlled the line and pickup area, and Mr. Krabs monitored the broader environment. The dining room operated at full density, with overlapping movement and sound forming a consistent, immersive rhythm. The peak of the evening continued, sustained by the seamless interaction of all participants in this tightly coordinated system. The Krusty Krab had entered a phase of the evening where the activity was no longer just a surge or a rhythm. It had become a dense, continuous current that seemed to occupy every inch of the restaurant. The hum of the crowd, the sizzling of the grill, and the clattering of trays combined into a single immersive experience, a constant pressure that filled the air with movement and energy. Every surface, every aisle, every corner was engaged in a complex yet ordered system that had evolved from the early quiet hours into a peak of efficiency and activity. The building itself seemed alive with the pulse of the dinner rush. SpongeBob moved through the kitchen with unwavering focus, his actions precise, almost automatic, yet deliberate in every detail. Patties flipped in synchronized succession, buns toasted with perfect timing, and fries were removed from the fryer at exact moments. Steam rose continuously, carrying the aroma of sizzling patties, salted fries, toasted buns, and fresh vegetables. The heat was constant, heavy in the air, and the thick, warm atmosphere seemed to press against the kitchen staff. Yet SpongeBob moved as if in step with it, never losing rhythm, never faltering in his task. Each movement flowed seamlessly into the next, a choreography built from countless evenings spent in the same space. The order machine printed continuously, each ticket a signal for action, each new slip requiring immediate integration into the flow. SpongeBob read quickly, processed mentally, and executed with precision. He organized trays with care, lined plates in sequential order, and ensured that every assembled meal matched the standards of the Krusty Krab. The sizzling, bubbling, and clattering of the kitchen merged into a unified symphony, each sound punctuating an action, guiding timing, and maintaining continuity. Nothing was accidental. Everything had purpose. Squidward operated the register with quiet, unbroken efficiency. Customers formed a long, continuous line stretching from the entrance and curling around the waiting area. His tentacles moved steadily, pressing keys, handling bills and coins, and sliding trays toward patrons without pause. The mechanical sounds of the register, the clicks, beeps, and metallic drawer slides produced a rhythm that complemented the movements of the kitchen and the flow of the dining room. He glanced periodically at the pickup area, anticipating where congestion might occur, adjusting subtly to keep the movement smooth. His consistent presence acted as an invisible guide, keeping the rhythm of the service uninterrupted. The pickup area was a hub of dense activity, filled with customers leaning forward slightly, ready to claim their meals as soon as they appeared. SpongeBob pushed tray after tray into place, each landing with a soft thump against the counter. Wrappers crinkled as sandwiches were lifted, cups rattled lightly, and utensils tapped against plates as people moved toward available tables. The motion was continuous, cyclical, and predictable. Patrons moved in subtle patterns, adapting to the movements of others, ensuring that everyone could navigate without collisions. The space operated almost like a living organism, responding naturally to each new input. Mr. Krabs moved deliberately through the dining area, surveying every table, every aisle, and every corner. His attention was precise, observing the placement of condiments, the alignment of chairs, and the cleanliness of surfaces. Trash bins were monitored and replaced as needed, their rustling and the soft thud of discarded items merging with the overall ambient noise. He listened to the register, the clatter of trays and the bubbling fryer, interpreting the sounds as signals of the restaurant's ongoing success. Every aspect of the space contributed to his understanding of the evening's momentum. He moved with careful intention, ensuring that nothing disrupted the flow of activity. The dining room maintained its high density. Chairs scraped against the floor as customers adjusted positions, trays were balanced with care, and conversations overlapped in a low, persistent hum. Patrons navigated around one another fluidly, following paths established by those before them. The combined motion and sound created a continuous current, with no single moment of silence or inactivity. Every individual contributed to the overall rhythm, whether consciously or not, and the resulting environment became a self-sustaining system where movement and noise were part of the ongoing equilibrium. SpongeBob moved efficiently through the kitchen, managing multiple components at once. Patties were flipped, fries removed, buns toasted, and trays assembled without pause. Each action flowed seamlessly into the next, guided by a deep understanding of timing and sequence. Steam and heat wrapped the kitchen in a thick, tangible presence, yet SpongeBob operated within it effortlessly. His attention never wavered, even as the density of activity increased and the pressure of the peak hours remained constant. Each tray moved into the pickup area in precise order, contributing to the smooth operation of the restaurant. Squidward continued managing the line with disciplined focus. Customers approached, placed their orders, collected trays, and moved to tables in a continuous loop. He adapted to the movements of patrons, predicting delays or congestion, and adjusting his timing subtly. Each transaction maintained the rhythm of the evening, the sounds of the register, coins, and trays reinforcing the ongoing pattern. The flow remained consistent, and the dense rhythm of the dining room never slowed, thanks to his controlled efficiency. Mr. Krabs continued circulating through the restaurant, vigilant in every detail. He straightened chairs, aligned condiments, and ensured trash bins were accessible. He monitored the dining room and kitchen, listening to the interplay of sounds that indicated the evening's efficiency. Every metallic click, every tray landing, and every subtle movement contributed to his awareness. He intervened only when necessary, keeping the system balanced and allowing the peak activity to continue uninterrupted. The heat and energy of the restaurant seemed almost tangible, pressing against the staff and patrons alike. SpongeBob's movements created order within the chaos. Squidward maintained continuity at the counter, and Mr. Krabs guided the overall rhythm with careful attention. Customers moved through the space with practiced ease, interacting with the environment and each other in subtle, repetitive patterns. Each action contributed to the density of the moment, forming an ongoing wave of motion and sound that defined the evening. Trash management remained a critical but unnoticed component of the system. Mr. Krabs replaced full liners, carried bags to storage, and ensured the space remained clean. The rustling of bags and soft thud of waste blended seamlessly into the hum of the dining room. Even these small, routine actions reinforced the restaurant's flow, maintaining order within the dense activity and supporting the seamless operation of the peak hours. SpongeBob continued assembling orders, coordinating every movement with the precision of someone who had worked this routine countless times. Burgers, fries, and drinks were combined on each tray with careful attention to detail. The kitchen, although full of heat, steam, and continuous sound, remained organized and structured under his management. The pace never faltered, even as the density of activity increased. He maintained the rhythm, adapting imperceptibly to new orders while ensuring that every tray was perfect. The dining room's density persisted. Customers navigated carefully between tables, placed trays down gently, and shifted chairs in synchronization with the space around them. Movement became second nature, each person anticipating the actions of others, maintaining balance and sustaining the flow. The overlapping sounds, the hum of conversation, the scraping of chairs, the tapping of utensils, and the shifting of trays formed a continuous, layered pattern. The room existed as a self-regulating environment, responsive to every individual contribution and yet entirely cohesive. Squidward's focus remained unwavering. He processed orders, managed tray pickups, and ensured that the line moved steadily. Each interaction followed a predictable rhythm, with the timing of each movement aligned to the larger system. He adapted to the flow of the dining room and the kitchen simultaneously, ensuring that no part of the process slowed. The result was seamless continuity, a tightly controlled loop of activity that sustained the peak of the evening. SpongeBob maintained control over the kitchen's intense energy. He monitored the grill, adjusted fry batches, toasted buns, and assembled trays without pause. Steam, heat, and sizzling sounds became part of the background, guiding his movements and reinforcing the rhythm. Each completed tray moved into the pickup area efficiently, ready for Squidward to hand to the next waiting customer. The workflow was continuous, predictable, and precise, allowing the restaurant to operate at maximum capacity. Mr. Krabs moved deliberately, observing the interactions of customers and staff, monitoring the overall flow. Every detail mattered. The alignment of tables, the cleanliness of surfaces, the positioning of trash bins, and the sounds of the register and kitchen. He made small interventions as needed, ensuring that the system remained balanced. Each sound and movement informed his decisions, guiding his actions to sustain the seamless momentum of the evening. The Krusty Krab existed in a state of full intensity, every element functioning in concert to maintain the rhythm of the peak rush. SpongeBob managed the kitchen, Squidward processed orders, and Mr. Krabs oversaw the dining room and overall operation. Customers moved through the space naturally, following subtle patterns and contributing to the continuous flow. Trash, trays, and minor adjustments blended into the larger system, reinforcing the seamless continuity of the environment. The evening was sustained, dense, and controlled, a cohesive pulse of motion, sound, and energy that defined the heart of the night. The Krusty Krab had now entered the stage of the evening where the rush was no longer merely an event. It had become a sustained force, a relentless current of activity that encompassed every corner of the restaurant. Every surface, every aisle, every station participated in the momentum, creating an environment of perpetual motion. The hum of conversation, the clatter of trays, the sizzling of patties, and the bubbling of fries merged into a dense auditory texture that filled the air entirely. The peak of the evening's activity demanded continuous attention, precise timing, and careful coordination from every member of the staff. SpongeBob moved through the kitchen with unyielding focus. Each patty flipped in perfect sequence, each bun toasted to a uniform golden brown, and each side of fries salted and arranged with meticulous care. The grill's surface radiated heat. The fryer bubbled and hissed incessantly, and steam curled and rose toward the ventilation hood above. Despite the oppressive warmth, SpongeBob operated as if he were part of the environment itself, moving fluidly and deliberately between tasks. His motions followed an internal rhythm, learned from countless nights of working in the same space, each action flowing naturally into the next. The order printer continued its ceaseless work, producing slips at a pace that challenged the human capacity to process. SpongeBob scanned each ticket with rapid attention, integrated the items mentally, and began assembling them immediately. Plates lined the counter in organized rows, each tray carefully prepared to match the exact specifications of the order. Every movement, from flipping a patty to arranging fries, had a purpose and timing that maintained the overall efficiency of the kitchen. The combined sounds of sizzling, bubbling, clattering, and mechanical clicks formed a constant backdrop, providing both pressure and guidance to the work at hand. Squidward remained at the register, his focus unbroken. The line of customers stretched back toward the entrance, bending around the walls and forming a continuous queue. His tentacles moved swiftly across the keys, pressing buttons, counting coins, and sliding trays toward the waiting customers without hesitation. The repetitive, mechanical sounds of the register, the clicks, beeps, and metallic drawer slides punctuated the ongoing rhythm of the dining room. Squidward monitored the pickup area carefully, anticipating moments when congestion might occur, adjusting his timing subtly to ensure smooth flow. His efficiency provided a foundation for the evening, allowing the system of the restaurant to function seamlessly. The pickup area was crowded and dense, filled with customers leaning forward slightly, their eyes focused on trays as they slid into position. SpongeBob pushed each tray into place with careful precision, producing soft thuds as they landed. Wrappers crinkled, cups rattled lightly, and the occasional clatter of utensils added layers to the ambient noise. Patrons stepped aside once they collected their meals, moving toward tables with practiced ease, navigating the narrow spaces between chairs and other customers. The movement was continuous and coordinated, forming a cycle that repeated endlessly, sustained by the predictable flow of activity. Mr. Krabs moved deliberately through the dining room, observing the flow of customers and staff. He checked the alignment of chairs, the placement of condiments, and the cleanliness of surfaces. Trash bins were monitored, and when full, liners were replaced efficiently, the rustling of plastic and the soft thud of discarded wrappers blending seamlessly into the background. He listened attentively to the register and kitchen sounds, interpreting every click and clink as a measure of productivity. Each intervention, whether adjusting a table or realigning a condiment, was deliberate, maintaining the order and flow without disrupting the overall momentum. The dining room remained densely packed. Chairs scraped lightly against the floor as patrons adjusted their seating, trays shifted slightly as they were placed on tables, and conversations overlapped in a low, continuous hum. Customers navigated carefully through the aisles, following the patterns established by those before them. The resulting movement and sound created a layered, immersive environment, a living ecosystem in which every individual action contributed to the overall rhythm. Patrons and staff alike existed in a delicate balance where even minor disruptions were absorbed by the ongoing flow. SpongeBob continued to manage multiple components of the kitchen simultaneously. He monitored the grill, adjusting the spacing of patties to ensure even cooking, removed fries at precise intervals, and toasted buns for perfect consistency. Each action flowed seamlessly into the next, maintaining a rhythm that was both intense and controlled. Steam and heat filled the space, but SpongeBob operated naturally within it, his movements guided by muscle memory and the established pace of the evening. Every tray assembled was delivered to the pickup area in sequence, ready for distribution. Squidward maintained unbroken attention at the register. He processed each transaction efficiently, coordinated the timing of tray handoffs, and kept the line moving smoothly. His subtle adjustments prevented congestion, and his awareness of the dining room allowed him to anticipate potential disruptions before they occurred. Every sound, every movement, and every interaction contributed to his perception of the restaurant's overall flow, enabling him to maintain control over the dense activity of the peak hours. Mr. Krabs continued to observe and adjust the dining room with focused attention. He monitored the movements of customers and staff, ensured that trash bins were accessible and clean, and maintained the alignment of chairs and tables. He interpreted the sounds of the restaurant, clattering trays, sizzling kitchen equipment, and the register's clicks as indicators of efficiency and productivity. Each minor adjustment contributed to the seamless operation of the restaurant, supporting the rhythm of the peak evening. The air in the Krusty Krab was thick with warmth, heat, and the combined energy of the kitchen and dining room. SpongeBob's movements provided order within the density of activity. Squidward maintained continuity at the register, and Mr. Krabs oversaw the overall system. Customers moved naturally, interacting with the environment and each other in subtle, predictable patterns that reinforced the flow of the evening. Trash, trays, and minor adjustments were incorporated into the larger system, sustaining the seamless continuity of the peak hours. SpongeBob's focus never wavered, even as the evening reached its highest intensity. He managed the grill, fryer, and counter simultaneously, flipping patties, monitoring fries, and assembling trays in precise sequence. The kitchen operated like a well-oiled machine, each action flowing seamlessly into the next, guided by rhythm, experience, and attention to detail. Steam, heat, sizzling, and bubbling created a dense, immersive environment, but SpongeBob worked within it effortlessly, sustaining the flow without pause. The dining room maintained its density and continuous motion. Patrons shifted in their chairs, balanced trays, and navigated the narrow aisles with care. Movement became instinctive, a natural extension of the shared rhythm. Sounds layered continuously, the scraping of chairs, the tapping of utensils, the hum of conversation, and the clatter of trays moving through the pickup area. The room operated as a cohesive system, self-regulating yet dynamic, capable of absorbing small variations without disrupting the overall flow. Squidward monitored and adjusted continuously, maintaining the rhythm of service. Each tray, each transaction, and each step in the process followed a predictable sequence that reinforced the efficiency of the evening. His attentiveness ensured that no delay or congestion slowed the operation, allowing the restaurant to maintain the momentum of the peak hours. Patrons moved fluidly from the pickup area to their tables, and the kitchen continued to produce meals without interruption. Mr. Krabs circulated through the restaurant, observing the behavior of customers and staff. He ensured that the space remained orderly, that trash was managed, and that minor adjustments were made without disrupting the flow. He interpreted every sound, the register, trays, clattering utensils, and kitchen noises as information, guiding his actions and maintaining balance. His careful attention sustained the seamless rhythm of the evening, allowing the Krusty Krab to function as a coherent system at full capacity. The Krusty Krab now existed in a state of sustained intensity. Every element, the kitchen, register, pickup area, dining, room, and staff worked in unison, creating a dense, continuous rhythm. SpongeBob maintained the production of meals. Squidward managed the flow of customers and trays, and Mr. Krabs oversaw the operation with vigilant attention. Patrons moved naturally through the space, contributing to the continuity of motion and sound. Minor adjustments, trash management, and the constant preparation of meals were incorporated seamlessly into the evening's pattern, ensuring that the peak activity continued without interruption. The restaurant thrummed with energy, a living system of motion and sound. SpongeBob's rhythm at the grill, Squidward's management at the register, and Mr. Krabs' oversight combined with the dense movement of customers to create a continuous, self-sustaining cycle. The evening pressed forward, each moment building upon the previous one, forming a cohesive experience of sustained intensity. The Krusty Krab existed in perfect equilibrium at the height of its activity, a complex system functioning at maximum capacity with precision, control, and relentless energy. The Krusty Krab had reached the apex of its evening activity, a moment where every motion, sound, and task combined into a dense, sustained rhythm. The air inside was thick with heat and steam, permeated by the rich aroma of sizzling patties, fried potatoes, and toasted buns. Every surface seemed alive with the energy of the night, from the polished counter to the bustling kitchen to the crowded tables of the dining room. Each movement, each sound, contributed to a continuous cycle, a pulse that ran through the restaurant and maintained its momentum without pause. SpongeBob operated the kitchen with unwavering concentration. Patties were flipped in precise sequence, their surfaces browning evenly under the constant heat of the grill. Buns were toasted with exact timing, fries removed from the fryer at their optimal golden crispness. Steam rose continuously, curling around his movements and creating a thick, humid environment. Despite the intensity of the activity, SpongeBob worked with fluidity and control, moving effortlessly from grill to fryer to counter, integrating new orders as they arrived. Every tray assembled was placed with care, each burger and fry arranged perfectly, ready for Squidward to distribute. The order printer continued its relentless production, sending a continuous stream of slips onto the counter. SpongeBob scanned each ticket quickly, processed the order, and executed it without hesitation. The rhythm of the kitchen, the sizzling, bubbling, clattering, and clicking, formed a continuous auditory layer that guided his movements. Actions were precise, deliberate, and seamless, each step flowing naturally into the next, maintaining the constant pace necessary for the evening's peak. Squidward remained at the register, a figure of stoic efficiency amid the chaos. The line of customers stretched far toward the entrance, yet his movements remained precise, coordinated, and continuous. Tentacles moved across the keys, sliding bills and coins, pushing trays toward waiting patrons. The mechanical sounds of the register, the clicks, beeps, and metallic slides, interwove with the clatter of trays and the hum of the dining room, creating a layered soundscape that defined the flow of the evening. Squidward monitored the pickup area, adjusting subtly to prevent congestion and ensure that each order moved smoothly from the kitchen to the customer. The pickup area thrummed with density. Customers leaned forward, eyes focused on trays as they arrived, their hands ready to claim the meals. SpongeBob slid tray after tray into position, each landing with a soft, controlled thump. Wrappers rustled, cups rattled lightly, and utensils clinked as patrons navigated the space. Once collected, meals were carried to tables in a fluid, coordinated dance, patrons moving around one another with practiced ease. The cycle repeated continuously, a seamless flow of action maintained by the rhythm of staff and customers alike. Mr. Krabs moved deliberately through the dining room, surveying every table, aisle, and corner. He checked condiments, realigned chairs, and ensured surfaces remained clean. Trash bins were monitored and replaced as necessary, the rustling of liners and the soft thud of discarded wrappers blending into the background. He listened to the combined sounds of the register, kitchen, and dining room as feedback, interpreting them as indicators of efficiency and profitability. Every movement, however minor, was an intervention in the larger system, designed to sustain the flow of the peak evening. The dining room's density created a persistent hum of sound and motion. Chairs scraped lightly against the floor as patrons adjusted themselves. Trays shifted on tables, and overlapping conversations created a low, continuous murmur. Customers navigated the aisles carefully, anticipating the paths of others, contributing to a fluid, shared pattern of movement. Every action, no matter how small, became part of the larger rhythm of the evening, forming an environment that was at once dense, controlled, and self-regulating. SpongeBob continued to orchestrate the kitchen's complex sequence of tasks. He monitored the grill, ensuring patties cooked evenly, adjusted fry batches for consistent crispness, and toasted buns with perfect timing. Trays were assembled methodically, combining burger, fries, and drinks in exact order. Steam, heat, sizzling, and bubbling provided constant sensory input, guiding his movements and reinforcing the rhythm of the workflow. The kitchen operated as a cohesive unit, its pace set by SpongeBob's consistent attention and mastery of the environment. Squidward maintained control of the customer flow. Each transaction was executed with precise timing, each tray handed off smoothly, and each step calibrated to prevent slowdowns. He anticipated the movements of both customers and kitchen staff, ensuring that the pickup area remained clear and the line continued to move efficiently. The register's mechanical sounds and the clatter of trays became markers of progress, helping him maintain the rhythm of service. Patrons moved fluidly from order to table, sustaining the flow of the dining room. Mr. Krabs continued to circulate strategically. He adjusted minor details, straightened chairs, realigned condiments, and ensured trash management remained seamless. He observed the behavior of staff and patrons, using the combined sounds and movements as data to guide his interventions. Every action reinforced the smooth operation of the evening, sustaining the peak flow without disrupting the larger system. The restaurant operated as a coordinated whole, each component interacting with precision. The combined heat of the kitchen and the density of the dining room created a palpable atmosphere. SpongeBob's movements maintained order within the intensity, Squidward's precise management ensured continuity, and Mr. Krabs' oversight preserved the overall balance. Patrons moved naturally through the restaurant, their behavior blending into the rhythm, each contributing to the ongoing flow. Even minor elements, trash, utensils, and tray movement were integrated into the system, supporting the sustained intensity of the evening. SpongeBob's workflow remained uninterrupted. He managed multiple tasks simultaneously, monitoring patties, adjusting fry batches, toasting buns, and assembling trays. Each motion was precise, flowing seamlessly into the next, guided by experience and attention. The kitchen remained structured despite heat, steam, and the continuous clatter of activity. Trays were moved into the pickup area in orderly sequence, ready for distribution. The work continued without pause, a testament to both the preparation and endurance of the staff. The dining room remained a dense, flowing environment. Patrons shifted in their chairs, adjusted trays, and navigated the aisles with careful, instinctive precision. Movement, sound, and interaction formed a continuous, immersive rhythm. The scraping of chairs, the tapping of utensils, and the low murmur of conversation layered together into a cohesive backdrop. Every individual action became part of the larger system, reinforcing the seamless operation of the restaurant and sustaining the energy of the peak hours. Squidward's attentiveness at the register ensured the uninterrupted flow of service. He managed the line, coordinated tray pickups, and adjusted for fluctuations in movement or congestion. His timing remained precise, every action contributing to the maintenance of the evening's rhythm. Patrons moved efficiently from the pickup area to tables, while SpongeBob sustained production in the kitchen. The system functioned like a living organism, each component dependent on the others for balance and continuity. Mr. Krabs maintained strategic oversight. He monitored staff, observed customer behavior, and ensured that small adjustments kept the restaurant operating smoothly. Trash bins were managed, chairs were aligned, and surfaces remained clean. He interpreted every sound, the register, the trays, the kitchen equipment, and the dining room hum as information, guiding his interventions to preserve the flow. Each action, though minor, reinforced the cohesion of the system, sustaining the uninterrupted rhythm of the peak evening. The Krusty Krab existed in a state of sustained, self-regulating activity. SpongeBob maintained production, Squidward managed the flow, and Mr. Krabs oversaw the larger system. Patrons contributed to the continuity, navigating the space in coordinated motion. Trash, trays, utensils, and minor adjustments were integrated into the rhythm. The intensity of the evening was maintained seamlessly, with every component functioning in unison to uphold the flow. The peak hours continued, dense, controlled, and unbroken, a testament to the coordination, attention, and endurance of the staff. The restaurant thrummed with activity. SpongeBob's rhythm at the grill, Squidward's precision at the register, and Mr. Krabs's oversight formed a triad of control within the dense energy of the evening. Customers moved naturally through the space, their actions blending into the larger flow. The continuous motion and sound created a living pulse, sustaining the peak and defining the Krusty Krab's evening at its height. Each moment was absorbed into the ongoing cycle, every detail reinforcing the seamless continuity of the night, maintaining the restaurant in perfect equilibrium under sustained intensity. The evening at the Krusty Krab pressed on without pause, the peak of activity extending into a prolonged, sustained phase. The restaurant had become an intricate network of overlapping movements, sounds, and tasks, each component dependent on the other for balance. Patrons navigated the dense environment with practiced care, their gestures subtle yet precise as they maneuvered through the aisles, adjusted chairs, and carried trays to occupied tables. The hum of conversation blended with the mechanical rhythm of the register, the sizzling of the grill, and the bubbling of fries, creating a layered, immersive environment that filled the senses entirely. SpongeBob remained at the heart of the kitchen, orchestrating each movement with fluid precision. Patties flipped in exact timing, buns were toasted and placed with care, and fries were removed at their optimal crispness. The heat and steam rose steadily, a dense, tangible presence. Yet SpongeBob adapted naturally to the intensity. Each tray was assembled in perfect sequence, combining burger, fries, and drink with meticulous attention. The repetitive but precise nature of his work formed a continuous loop, each action flowing seamlessly into the next, sustaining the rhythm of the evening. The order printer continued to output slips at a steady pace, feeding the kitchen with new tasks without interruption. SpongeBob processed each order swiftly, mentally prioritizing items to maintain an uninterrupted workflow. The clatter of trays, sizzling of the grill, and bubbling of the fryer produced a constant, guiding soundscape, allowing him to synchronize each task with the larger pace of the evening. The kitchen, despite the heat, density, and intensity, remained a controlled environment, each action intentional and perfectly timed. Squidward managed the register with disciplined efficiency. The line of customers extended toward the entrance, their presence forming a continuous, predictable wave. Tentacles moved across the keys in a steady rhythm, sliding coins and bills and pushing trays toward patrons at the precise moment. The mechanical sounds of the register, the clicks, beeps, and metallic drawer slides interacted with the ambient noise of the dining room, forming a consistent rhythm that guided both customers and staff. Squidward maintained a subtle awareness of the pickup area, adjusting timing to prevent congestion and ensure a seamless flow from the kitchen to the diners. The pickup area functioned as a nexus of motion and anticipation. Customers leaned slightly forward, their attention fixed on the edge of the counter as trays appeared. SpongeBob slid each tray into position with deliberate precision, the soft thump of each landing punctuating the rhythm. Wrappers crinkled as sandwiches were lifted, cups rattled against trays, and utensils clattered lightly as meals were transported to tables. Patrons moved efficiently around one another, the flow continuous and uninterrupted. The area acted as a conduit, connecting the precise work of the kitchen with the dynamic density of the dining room. Mr. Krabs moved strategically through the restaurant, observing every table, aisle, and corner. He ensured chairs were aligned, condiments were properly positioned, and surfaces remained clean and orderly. Trash bins were monitored, replaced, and emptied as necessary, their rustling and soft thud merging seamlessly into the overall soundscape. He listened to the interplay of the register, kitchen, and dining room, interpreting every sound as a signal of efficiency and success. Minor interventions, straightening a table, repositioning a napkin, reinforced the balance of the restaurant without disrupting the ongoing flow. The dining room remained densely populated. Patrons adjusted their seating, shifted trays, and navigated the aisles with careful, instinctive precision. Chairs scraped lightly against the floor, utensils tapped on plates, and conversations overlapped in a continuous murmur. Movement and sound interwove into a cohesive rhythm, with each person's action contributing to the larger pulse of the evening. The environment was dense, yet controlled, every component functioning in harmony with the others to maintain continuity and efficiency. SpongeBob's focus did not waver as he managed multiple tasks simultaneously. He monitored the grill, adjusted the spacing of patties, removed fries at exact intervals, toasted buns, and assembled trays with precision. Each movement flowed naturally into the next, creating a seamless chain of actions. The kitchen's heat, steam, sizzling, and bubbling sounds formed an immersive backdrop that guided SpongeBob's attention and reinforced the rhythm of his work. Trays moved into the pickup area efficiently, ready for Squidward to distribute, sustaining the continuous flow of service. Squidward's vigilance ensured that every transaction and tray handoff occurred without delay. He adjusted timing subtly, anticipating the movements of both customers and kitchen staff. His precision maintained a smooth flow at the register and pickup area, preventing bottlenecks and sustaining the rhythm of the dining room. Patrons moved fluidly from the pickup area to their tables, their own subtle actions contributing to the ongoing cycle of motion and sound. Every detail, from the smallest adjustment of a tray to the careful placement of a bill, reinforced the continuity of the evening. Mr. Krabs oversaw the dining room and kitchen with meticulous attention. He observed staff and customer behavior, adjusted minor details, and ensured trash management remained seamless. Every metallic click, rustle, or thud contributed to his understanding of the restaurant's performance. He responded subtly, intervening only when necessary, to maintain balance and support the flow of activity. His movements reinforced the structured environment, sustaining the complex system at the core of the Krusty Krab. The Krusty Krab's air remained thick with warmth and the concentrated energy of activity. SpongeBob's rhythm in the kitchen, Squidward's control at the register, and Mr. Krabs's oversight formed a triad of stability within the dense activity. Patrons moved through the restaurant naturally, their behavior aligning with the established flow, each action absorbed into the larger rhythm. Minor elements, such as utensils, trays, and trash, were integrated into the pattern, supporting the sustained intensity of the evening. SpongeBob maintained a continuous cycle of tasks, flipping patties, managing fry batches, toasting buns, assembling trays, and replenishing supplies. Each action flowed seamlessly into the next, guided by experience and instinct. The kitchen operated as a controlled yet dynamic environment, dense with heat, steam, and sound, yet perfectly structured. Trays were prepared and delivered efficiently, supporting the ongoing rhythm of service and sustaining the peak activity. The dining room's movement and sound remained consistent and immersive. Patrons adjusted chairs, balanced trays, and navigated the narrow aisles with precise, instinctive timing. Overlapping conversations, scraping chairs, and the soft clatter of utensils combined into a continuous, layered hum. The environment functioned as a cohesive whole, self-regulating and responsive, allowing the high density of activity to persist without disruption. Every subtle action reinforced the rhythm of the evening, sustaining the uninterrupted flow. Squidward continued to manage the register with exacting efficiency. Each transaction, each tray handoff, and each adjustment was executed with precision, preventing slowdowns and maintaining the seamless flow of service. He monitored the pickup area and dining room, anticipating minor fluctuations and adjusting his timing accordingly. Patrons moved smoothly from collection to seating, and the kitchen continued to supply trays without interruption. The restaurant functioned as a synchronized system, each component essential to sustaining the continuity of the evening. Mr. Krabs circulated strategically, maintaining oversight of the entire restaurant. He ensured tables and chairs were properly aligned, condiments were in place, and trash bins were accessible and emptied as needed. He interpreted every sound and movement, using them as cues for subtle interventions to maintain order and continuity. Each minor adjustment contributed to the overall efficiency and flow, sustaining the peak activity of the evening and reinforcing the cohesion of the restaurant system. The Krusty Krab operated in a state of uninterrupted density, every element in alignment to sustain the rhythm of the evening. SpongeBob's precision in the kitchen, Squidward's control at the register, and Mr. Krabs' oversight created a stable framework that allowed the peak activity to persist. Patrons moved naturally, contributing to the flow with subtle actions. Minor tasks, trash management, utensil adjustments, and tray placement were seamlessly integrated into the system. The environment maintained a continuous immersive pulse, reflecting the coordination, attention, and endurance of the staff. Every moment in the Krusty Krab was absorbed into the ongoing flow. SpongeBob's rhythm at the grill, Squidward's precision at the register, and Mr. Krabs' strategic oversight maintained the balance of the environment. Patrons' movements, sounds, and actions were integrated seamlessly into the system. The combined energy of the kitchen, dining room, and staff formed a self-sustaining current, dense, controlled, and unbroken. The peak of the evening endured, a living pulse of activity, sound, and motion that defined the Krusty Krab at its height of operation. The Krusty Krab persisted in its dense, unbroken flow of activity, a living system where every element, from the kitchen to the dining room, contributed to the ongoing pulse. Heat radiated from the grills and fryers, mingling with the warmth generated by the full dining area. Steam rose continuously, curling and drifting through the air, carrying with it the rich aroma of sizzling patties, freshly fried potatoes, and toasted buns. The restaurant thrummed with the energy of a peak evening, each movement, sound, and task intertwined in a seamless, perpetual rhythm. SpongeBob remained at the center of the kitchen's orchestration, executing each task with precise timing. Patties were flipped, buns toasted, and fries removed from the fryer at optimal crispness, all while he assembled trays with meticulous attention. Each action flowed naturally into the next, a continuous cycle of preparation and delivery. Steam and heat formed a thick backdrop, pressing gently against his movements, yet he adapted effortlessly, allowing the rhythm of the kitchen to guide him. Every tray moved into the pickup area in perfect order, ready for distribution to the waiting customers. The order printer produced a steady stream of slips, each a directive that demanded immediate attention. SpongeBob scanned the tickets, integrated the items mentally, and executed the preparation with unwavering focus. The clatter of trays, the sizzling of the grill, the bubbling of fries, and the mechanical clicks of the fryer formed an immersive soundscape that guided his movements. Actions were deliberate, precise, and seamless, each contributing to the overall continuity of the evening's flow. Squidward maintained his station at the register with exacting control. The line of customers extended back toward the entrance, each individual a part of the flowing rhythm. Tentacles moved across the keys with precision, sliding coins and bills, pushing trays toward patrons at the precise moment. The register's mechanical sounds, clicks, beeps, and metallic drawer slides blended with the hum of conversation and the clatter of trays, forming a continuous auditory layer that reinforced the system. Squidward monitored the pickup area carefully, subtly adjusting timing to prevent congestion and ensure seamless movement from kitchen to dining area. The pickup area was dense with activity. Patrons leaned forward slightly, eyes fixed on trays as they arrived. SpongeBob pushed each tray into place with deliberate care, soft thuds marking each successful handoff. Wrappers crinkled, cups rattled lightly, and utensils clattered against plates as meals were transported to tables. Patrons moved fluidly around one another, their actions coordinated by instinctive anticipation, sustaining the unbroken flow of service. The area acted as a conduit, connecting the precise production in the kitchen to the dense energy of the dining room. Mr. Krabs circulated through the restaurant with measured attention, observing the flow of staff and patrons. He checked chairs for alignment, ensured condiments were properly positioned, and maintained cleanliness of surfaces. Trash bins were monitored, replaced, and emptied efficiently, the rustling of liners and the soft thud of discarded wrappers integrating seamlessly into the ambient noise. He listened to the interplay of register clicks, kitchen sounds, and conversation, interpreting each as a signal of efficiency and productivity. Minor interventions maintained balance without disrupting the continuous rhythm. The dining room maintained its density and fluidity. Chairs scraped lightly against the floor as patrons adjusted positions, trays shifted slightly as meals were placed, and conversations created a low, overlapping hum. Movement was instinctive yet precise, each patron contributing to the collective rhythm. The space operated as a cohesive system, self-regulating and responsive, where even minor disruptions were absorbed without affecting the flow. Every subtle action reinforced the evening's momentum, sustaining the unbroken cycle of activity. SpongeBob continued to manage the kitchen with exacting focus. He monitored patties on the grill, adjusted fry batches for consistency, toasted buns, and assembled trays without pause. Steam, heat, sizzling, and bubbling created a dense sensory environment, yet SpongeBob's attention remained undivided. Each tray moved smoothly to the pickup area, integrated seamlessly into the cycle of service, and supported the continuous rhythm of the dining room. The kitchen functioned as a precise, controlled system, dense yet coordinated under his steady guidance. Squidward's attention at the register remained unwavering. Each transaction was executed with perfect timing, each tray handoff coordinated to maintain a smooth flow. He anticipated the movements of customers and staff, adjusting subtly to prevent delays and maintain continuity. Patrons moved fluidly from the pickup area to tables, and the kitchen continued to produce meals efficiently. The system operated as a synchronized whole, each part dependent on the others, creating a seamless environment of sustained activity. Mr. Krabs continued his oversight with meticulous care. He adjusted chairs, repositioned condiments, and monitored trash management, all while observing staff and customer behavior. Every metallic click, rustle, or thud provided information, guiding his decisions and subtle interventions. Each minor adjustment reinforced the overall cohesion of the restaurant, sustaining the momentum of the peak hours. His strategic presence maintained the balance of the environment, allowing the dense rhythm to persist unbroken. The air in the Krusty Krab was thick with heat, steam, and the energy of continuous activity. SpongeBob's rhythm in the kitchen, Squidward's control at the register, and Mr. Krabs' oversight formed a stable framework within the density of the evening. Patrons moved naturally, their subtle actions contributing to the seamless flow. Minor elements, utensils, trays, trash were incorporated into the larger system, supporting the unbroken continuity of the peak hours. The environment functioned as a living pulse, dense, controlled, and self-sustaining. SpongeBob maintained a continuous, precise cycle of work, flipping patties, managing fry batches, toasting buns, assembling trays, and replenishing supplies. Each action flowed seamlessly into the next, guided by experience, rhythm, and attention to detail. The kitchen operated as a controlled ecosystem, dense with heat, steam, and sound, yet perfectly structured. Trays moved into the pickup area efficiently, reinforcing the seamless operation of the restaurant and sustaining the evening's peak activity. The dining room's motion and sound remained dense and continuous. Patrons adjusted chairs, balanced trays, and navigated narrow aisles with instinctive precision. Overlapping conversations, scraping chairs, and the soft clatter of utensils layered into a continuous, cohesive hum. The environment operated as a self-regulating system, responsive and stable, allowing the high density of activity to persist without interruption. Every small action reinforced the rhythm, sustaining the uninterrupted flow of the evening. Squidward maintained precision at the register. Each transaction, each tray handoff, and each minor adjustment was executed with exact timing, preventing bottlenecks and maintaining the smooth rhythm of service. He monitored the pickup area and dining room, anticipating subtle variations and adjusting accordingly. Patrons moved seamlessly from collection to seating, while the kitchen continued to supply trays without pause. The Krusty Krab functioned as a synchronized system, each component essential to the sustained continuity of the evening. Mr. Krabs continued to circulate strategically, maintain an oversight of the entire restaurant. He ensured tables and chairs were properly aligned, condiments were in place, and trash bins were managed efficiently. He interpreted sounds and movements as information, guiding subtle interventions to maintain order and flow. Each action reinforced the cohesion of the system, sustaining the peak activity of the evening and supporting the uninterrupted momentum. The restaurant functioned as a dense, controlled ecosystem of activity. The Krusty Krab operated in a state of persistent, unbroken rhythm. SpongeBob's precision in the kitchen, Squidward's control at the register, and Mr. Krabs's strategic oversight maintained the balance of the environment. Patrons moved naturally, their actions integrated into the flow, contributing to the dense continuity. Minor elements, trash management, utensil placement, and tray movement were seamlessly incorporated, reinforcing the ongoing pulse. The peak of the evening endured, a living current of motion, sound, and activity that defined the Krusty Krab at its height of operation. Every moment was absorbed into the ongoing flow. SpongeBob's rhythm at the grill, Squidward's precise management at the register, and Mr. Krabs's attentive oversight maintained balance within the dense environment. Patrons' actions, sounds, and movements were incorporated into the system, reinforcing the seamless continuity. The combined energy of the kitchen, dining room, and staff created a self-sustaining current, dense, controlled, and unbroken. The Krusty Krab existed in perfect equilibrium, the peak of the evening fully realized, sustained, and alive. The evening at the Krusty Krab had reached a sustained plateau, a level of activity that required constant attention, precise timing, and continuous coordination. The restaurant throbbed with motion, sound, and heat, each element contributing to a unified, seamless system. Patrons navigated the crowded aisles with instinctive awareness. Chairs scraped lightly against the floor as people shifted, and the low hum of conversation layered with the mechanical sounds of the register and the steady rhythm of the kitchen. Every action, no matter how small, was absorbed into the ongoing momentum of the night. SpongeBob worked in the kitchen with unwavering focus, orchestrating multiple tasks simultaneously. Patties were flipped at exact intervals, buns toasted with perfect timing, and fries removed from the fryer at the precise moment. Steam rose continuously, curling and filling the room with a humid warmth, yet SpongeBob moved effortlessly, navigating the dense environment with practiced precision. Trays were assembled systematically, each containing burger, fries, and drink arranged perfectly. The sequence of actions repeated without pause, forming a continuous loop of preparation and delivery. The order printer functioned as a constant source of new tasks, its slips sliding onto the counter at a steady pace. SpongeBob scanned each order, integrated the items, and executed them immediately. The kitchen produced a consistent rhythm of sizzling, bubbling, and clattering, guiding SpongeBob's movements and reinforcing the workflow. Every completed tray moved efficiently into the pickup area, ready for Squidward to distribute to the waiting customers. The flow was continuous, dense, and seamless, a perfect balance of energy and precision. Squidward managed the register with controlled efficiency. The line of customers extended toward the entrance, a steady stream of patrons flowing forward in anticipation of their orders. Tentacles moved methodically across the keys, sliding coins and bills and pushing trays toward the correct recipients. The mechanical sounds of the register, the clicks, beeps, and metallic slides interacted with the hum of conversation, the clatter of trays, and the ambient kitchen sounds, forming a layered auditory system that defined the rhythm of the evening. Squidward monitored the pickup area closely, subtly adjusting timing to prevent congestion and maintain smooth continuity. The pickup area was dense with activity. Patrons leaned forward slightly, eyes fixed on trays as they appeared. SpongeBob slid each tray into position with deliberate care, producing soft thuds that punctuated the rhythm. Wrappers crinkled, cups rattled lightly, and utensils clattered as meals were transported to tables. Movement was fluid and continuous, patrons navigating the narrow space with instinctive anticipation of each other's actions. The area functioned as a conduit between the kitchen and dining room, sustaining the seamless flow of service. Mr. Krabs moved deliberately through the restaurant, maintaining careful oversight of the entire operation. He checked chairs for alignment, repositioned condiments, and ensured surfaces remained clean. Trash bins were monitored and emptied as necessary, the rustling of liners and soft thuds of discarded items blending into the ambient soundscape. He listened to the interplay of register clicks, kitchen sounds, and conversation, interpreting each as a measure of efficiency and productivity. Every minor adjustment maintained the balance of the environment without disrupting the flow of activity. The dining room maintained its high density, filled with patrons whose actions were integrated into the collective rhythm. Chairs scraped lightly against the floor, trays shifted on tables, and the overlapping hum of conversations blended with the ambient mechanical and kitchen sounds. Patrons moved with instinctive precision, each anticipating the actions of those around them. The space operated as a cohesive, self-regulating system, absorbing small variations without disrupting the flow. Every movement reinforced the momentum of the evening. SpongeBob maintained focus in the kitchen, executing the preparation and assembly of trays with continuous precision. Patties were monitored, fries removed at perfect crispness, buns toasted evenly, and all components combined carefully on each tray. Steam, heat, and the sizzling of the grill formed a dense backdrop, guiding SpongeBob's motions and reinforcing the rhythm of production. The kitchen operated as a precise, organized system, dense with activity, yet perfectly coordinated, under SpongeBob's steady direction. Squidward's attention at the register ensured uninterrupted continuity. Transactions were executed with exact timing, tray handoffs coordinated to prevent bottlenecks, and minor adjustments made seamlessly. He anticipated customer movement and kitchen output, adjusting subtly to maintain flow. Patrons moved fluidly from pickup area to tables, their actions synchronized with the larger rhythm. The restaurant functioned as a coordinated system, each component interdependent, sustaining the evening's momentum. Mr. Krabs continued to monitor and adjust the dining room with focused attention. Chairs were aligned, condiments repositioned, and trash management maintained seamlessly. Every sound, from metallic register clicks to the rustle of a wrapper or clatter of utensils, informed his actions. Minor interventions reinforced the cohesive operation of the restaurant, ensuring the continuous rhythm of activity persisted. His presence maintained the delicate balance between staff efficiency, customer movement, and the dense sensory environment. The Krusty Krab's atmosphere was thick with heat, energy, and continuous motion. SpongeBob's rhythm in the kitchen, Squidward's control at the register, and Mr. Krabs' oversight formed a stable framework within the dense activity. Patrons moved naturally through the restaurant, their gestures and motions absorbed seamlessly into the flow. Minor elements, such as utensils, tray placement, and trash management, were integrated into the system, reinforcing the unbroken continuity of the evening's peak. SpongeBob executed a continuous cycle of kitchen tasks with precise timing, flipping patties, monitoring fry batches, toasting buns, assembling trays, and replenishing supplies. Each action flowed seamlessly into the next, guided by experience, rhythm, and attention to detail. The kitchen remained a controlled, dense environment, structured yet dynamic. Trays moved efficiently to the pickup area, sustaining the overall rhythm of service and reinforcing the continuity of the dining room. The dining room maintained its dense, flowing energy. Patrons adjusted seating, balanced trays, and navigated narrow aisles with instinctive precision. Conversations overlapped, chairs scraped lightly, and utensils clattered, forming a continuous layered hum. The space functioned as a self-regulating system, absorbing small variations while maintaining consistent flow. Each subtle movement reinforced the rhythm of the evening, sustaining the momentum and unbroken cycle of activity. Squidward maintained exacting control at the register. Every transaction and tray handoff followed a precise sequence, preventing slowdowns and ensuring smooth flow. He monitored the pickup area and dining room, anticipating fluctuations and adjusting timing subtly. Patrons moved efficiently from collection to seating, while the kitchen produced trays without interruption. The Krusty Krab operated as a synchronized system, each element essential to the sustained continuity of the evening. Mr. Krabs continued circulating strategically, maintaining oversight of the entire restaurant. Chairs were aligned, condiments adjusted, and trash management kept seamless. Every sound and movement informed his actions, guiding subtle interventions to maintain balance. Each minor adjustment reinforced the cohesion of the system, sustaining peak activity and ensuring uninterrupted flow. The restaurant functioned as a dense, controlled ecosystem of activity. The Krusty Krab operated in a state of persistent, unbroken rhythm. SpongeBob's kitchen precision, Squidward's register control, and Mr. Krabs' oversight maintained balance within the dense environment. Patrons' actions were absorbed into the flow, contributing to the seamless continuity. Minor tasks, trash management, utensil placement, tray movement were integrated, supporting the ongoing pulse. The evening's peak endured, a living current of motion, sound, and activity defining the Krusty Krab at its height. Every moment was absorbed into the ongoing cycle. SpongeBob's rhythm at the grill, Squidward's precise management at the register, and Mr. Krab's strategic oversight maintained stability within the dense environment. Patrons' gestures, movements, and sounds were incorporated seamlessly into the system, reinforcing continuity. The combined energy of the kitchen, dining room, and staff created a self-sustaining current, dense, controlled, and unbroken. The Krusty Krab existed in perfect equilibrium, the peak of the evening fully realized and sustained. The Krusty Krab had entered the stage of the evening where its operation had become a seamless, sustained current. The restaurant throbbed with energy, each sound, movement, and action blending into a continuous rhythm. Heat radiated from the grill and fryers, steam rose steadily into the air, and the scent of sizzling patties, fried potatoes, and toasted buns filled every corner. Patrons navigated the dense environment instinctively, adjusting chairs, balancing trays, and moving through aisles with precision that allowed the flow of activity to continue without interruption. SpongeBob worked in the kitchen with unwavering focus. Patties flipped at exact intervals, buns were toasted with meticulous timing, and fries were removed at peak crispness. Each tray was assembled with careful attention to detail, combining burger, fries, and drink in perfect order. The sequence of actions repeated endlessly, forming a continuous loop that sustained the kitchen's rhythm. Steam and heat enveloped the space, yet SpongeBob moved effortlessly, integrating every new order seamlessly into the ongoing workflow. The kitchen functioned as a dense, ordered system, with SpongeBob at its center, orchestrating each component with precision. The order printer continued its relentless output, feeding the kitchen with a steady stream of tasks. SpongeBob scanned each ticket, mentally prioritized the items, and executed them without delay. The combined sounds of sizzling, bubbling, clattering, and mechanical clicks created a layered auditory guide, directing each movement and reinforcing the pace of the evening. Trays were completed and moved efficiently into the pickup area, ready for Squidward to distribute to the waiting customers. The rhythm was dense, continuous, and entirely self-sustaining. Squidward maintained the register with unwavering control. The line of customers extended toward the entrance, flowing as a continuous stream. Tentacles moved precisely over the keys, sliding coins and bills, and pushing trays toward patrons at the exact moment required. The register's mechanical sounds, the clicks, beeps, and metallic drawer slides, blended with the hum of conversation, the clatter of trays, and the ambient noise of the kitchen, forming a consistent rhythm that guided both staff and customers. Squidward's subtle awareness of the pickup area ensured smooth movement, preventing congestion and sustaining uninterrupted flow. The pickup area was dense and active, a focal point where the kitchen's precise output met the dining room's dynamic movement. Patrons leaned slightly forward, eyes fixed on the edge of the counter as trays arrived. SpongeBob slid each tray into place with deliberate care, soft thuds marking each successful handoff. Wrappers crinkled, cups rattled lightly, and utensils clattered as meals were transported to tables. Patrons moved fluidly around one another, guided by instinctive anticipation of each other's movements, sustaining the seamless flow of service. The pickup area acted as a conduit, transferring precision from the kitchen to the dense energy of the dining room. Mr. Krabs moved strategically through the restaurant, observing every detail with sharp attention. He ensured chairs were aligned, condiments were properly positioned, and surfaces remained clean. Trash bins were monitored and emptied efficiently, the rustling of liners and soft thuds of discarded items blending seamlessly into the ambient sounds. He listened to the interplay of register clicks, kitchen activity, and conversation, interpreting each sound as an indicator of productivity. Minor interventions maintained balance without disrupting the flow, sustaining the momentum of the evening. The dining room remained densely populated and fluid with motion. Chairs scraped lightly against the floor as patrons shifted, trays shifted on tables, and overlapping conversations created a low, continuous hum. Patrons navigated with instinctive precision, anticipating the movements of those around them. The environment functioned as a cohesive system, self-regulating and responsive, capable of absorbing small variations without disrupting continuity. Every subtle movement reinforced the rhythm of the evening, maintaining the unbroken flow of activity. SpongeBob continued to manage the kitchen with exacting focus. He monitored patties, adjusted fry batches, toasted buns, and assembled trays without pause. Steam, heat, and the sizzling of the grill created a dense backdrop, guiding his motions and reinforcing the workflow. The kitchen operated as a controlled ecosystem, dense with activity yet perfectly coordinated. Trays moved into the pickup area efficiently, supporting the seamless rhythm of service and sustaining the continuity of the dining room. Squidward's precision at the register ensured a smooth, uninterrupted continuity. Each transaction, each tray handoff, and each minor adjustment followed an exact sequence, preventing slowdowns and maintaining flow. He monitored the pickup area and dining room simultaneously, anticipating minor fluctuations and adjusting accordingly. Patrons moved efficiently from collection to seating, and the kitchen continued to produce trays without interruption. The Krusty Krab functioned as a synchronized system, each element essential to the sustained continuity of the evening. Mr. Krabs maintained a vigilant oversight of the entire restaurant. He ensured chairs were aligned, condiments correctly positioned, and trash management seamless. Every metallic click, rustle, or clatter informed his subtle interventions, reinforcing the cohesion of the environment. Each minor adjustment contributed to the overall efficiency and flow, sustaining the peak activity of the evening. His presence maintained balance, allowing the dense rhythm to persist unbroken, guiding both staff and patrons in the flow of motion and sound. The air of the Krusty Krab was thick with heat, energy, and continuous activity. SpongeBob's kitchen rhythm, Squidward's register precision, and Mr. Krabs' oversight created a stable framework within the dense, moving environment. Patrons moved naturally, their gestures integrated seamlessly into the flow. Minor elements, utensils, tray placement, and trash were incorporated into the larger system, supporting the unbroken continuity of the peak hours. The environment functioned as a living pulse, dense, controlled, and self-sustaining. SpongeBob maintained a continuous cycle of kitchen tasks with precise timing. He flipped patties, monitored fry batches, toasted buns, assembled trays, and replenished supplies, each action flowing seamlessly into the next. The kitchen remained structured yet dynamic, dense with heat, steam, and sound, yet perfectly coordinated. Trays moved efficiently to the pickup area, reinforcing the smooth operation of the restaurant and sustaining the evening's peak activity. The dining room's motion and sound remained dense and continuous. Patrons adjusted chairs, balanced trays, and navigated aisles with instinctive precision. Overlapping conversations, scraping chairs, and clattering utensils formed a continuous layered hum. The environment operated as a self-regulating system, absorbing minor variations while maintaining a consistent flow. Every action reinforced the rhythm of the evening, sustaining the momentum and unbroken cycle of activity. Squidward maintained exacting control at the register. Each transaction and tray handoff followed a precise sequence, preventing delays and ensuring smooth flow. He monitored the pickup area and dining room, adjusting subtly to maintain efficiency. Patrons moved seamlessly from collection to seating, while the kitchen continued to supply trays without pause. The Krusty Krab operated as a synchronized living system, each component integral to sustaining the continuity of the evening. Mr. Krabs continued circulating strategically, maintaining oversight of the entire restaurant. Chairs were aligned, condiments adjusted, and trash management kept seamless. Every sound and movement informed his subtle interventions, ensuring balance. Each minor adjustment reinforced the cohesion of the system, sustaining peak activity and supporting uninterrupted flow. The restaurant functioned as a dense, controlled ecosystem of activity, each element interdependent and synchronized. The Krusty Krab operated in a state of continuous, unbroken rhythm. SpongeBob's precision in the kitchen, Squidward's control at the register, and Mr. Krab's oversight maintained equilibrium within the dense environment. Patrons' movements, gestures, and actions were absorbed into the flow, contributing to seamless continuity. Minor tasks, trash management, utensil placement, tray movement were incorporated into the system, reinforcing the ongoing pulse. The evening's peak endured, a living current of motion, sound, and activity that defined the Krusty Krab at its height. Every moment was absorbed into the ongoing cycle. SpongeBob's rhythm at the grill, Squidward's precision at the register, and Mr. Krab's strategic oversight maintained stability within the dense environment. Patrons' gestures, movements, and sounds were integrated seamlessly, reinforcing continuity. The combined energy of kitchen, dining room, and staff created a self-sustaining current, dense, controlled, and unbroken. The Krusty Krab existed in perfect equilibrium, the peak of the evening fully realized, sustained, and alive. The evening at the Krusty Krab had reached its final stretch, a sustained crescendo of movement, sound, and heat that now began to taper slowly as the night progressed. The density of activity remained high, yet subtle shifts indicated the approaching end of the peak. Patrons continued to navigate the dining room, but the stream of new arrivals slowed, the rhythm of footsteps and chair scraping softened, and the hum of conversation began to thin. The restaurant retained its energy, yet an undercurrent of transition threaded through the evening, signaling a shift from peak intensity toward closure. SpongeBob continued his work in the kitchen, though the pace adjusted subtly with the diminishing flow of orders. Patties still flipped, fries were still pulled from the fryer, and buns toasted to golden perfection. Yet there was now a measured rhythm, a slight easing of the unbroken intensity that had dominated the previous hours. Steam rose steadily, curling through the warm air, carrying the rich aroma of the evening's labor, a reminder of the continuous motion that had defined the night. Each tray, assembled with care, was delivered efficiently to the pickup area, sustaining the final current of activity with SpongeBob's unwavering focus. The order printer, while still producing slips, now sent them at a reduced pace, reflecting the lighter flow of customers. SpongeBob scanned and processed each with the same precision, Yet there was a subtle acknowledgment in his movements of the evening's progression. The sounds of sizzling, bubbling, and clattering persisted, forming a dense auditory texture, though slightly less overwhelming than before. Each completed tray moved smoothly to Squidward, reinforcing the cohesion between kitchen and dining room, maintaining continuity even as the energy began to relax. Squidward maintained his station at the register, continuing to process transactions with his characteristic precision. The line of customers had shortened, yet his attention did not waver. Tentacles moved deliberately over the keys, coins slid, bills passed, and trays were distributed without pause. The register's mechanical clicks, beeps, and metallic slides still blended with the hum of conversation and the ambient sounds of the kitchen, forming a consistent rhythm, now slightly softened, signaling the evening's gradual transition. His awareness of the pickup area remained keen, ensuring no bottleneck formed as the flow of service tapered. The pickup area retained its function as the central conduit of movement. Patrons leaned forward to collect trays, and SpongeBob pushed each into position with gentle precision. Wrappers crinkled, cups rattled lightly, and utensils clattered as meals were carried to tables. The flow of movement, though slightly reduced, remained coordinated and smooth, each individual action absorbed into the larger rhythm of the restaurant. The pickup area acted as the bridge between the kitchen's precise output and the dining room's fluid, controlled environment, sustaining momentum even as the night approached its end. Mr. Krabs moved with measured attention, observing the gradual changes in activity. He checked chairs and tables for alignment, repositioned condiments, and maintained cleanliness. Trash bins were monitored and replaced efficiently, the rustling of liners and soft thuds of discarded items merging naturally into the ambient soundscape. He interpreted the register clicks, kitchen noises, and diminishing conversations as signals of progress toward closure. Each minor adjustment reinforced balance and order, maintaining the cohesive structure of the Krusty Krab even as the intensity of the night softened. The dining room retained its density, though with a more relaxed flow. Patrons adjusted seating, balanced trays, and navigated the aisles with careful ease. Chairs scraped lightly, utensils clattered softly, and conversations overlapped in a low, continuous murmur. The space remained cohesive, responsive to changes in activity without disrupting continuity. Each subtle motion contributed to the collective rhythm, preserving the structural integrity of the environment while allowing for a natural winding down of the evening's energy. SpongeBob continued to manage the kitchen with methodical precision. Patties were monitored, fries removed at optimal crispness, buns toasted evenly, and trays assembled carefully. Steam and heat filled the space, but his movements were fluid and measured, adjusted subtly to reflect the decrease in pace. The kitchen functioned as a controlled ecosystem, dense with activity, yet now gently relaxing into a slower rhythm. Trays were delivered efficiently, reinforcing continuity while the evening's energy gradually softened, signaling the approach of closure. Squidward maintained his exacting control at the register. Each transaction and tray handoff continued to follow a precise sequence, preventing delays and ensuring smooth service. He monitored the pickup area and dining room with awareness, adjusting subtly to accommodate the slower flow. Patrons moved from collection to seating fluidly, and the kitchen continued to supply trays efficiently. The restaurant remained a synchronized system, each component operating in balance, sustaining continuity even as the night's momentum gradually eased. Mr. Krabs oversaw the environment with strategic attention, maintaining alignment of chairs, repositioning condiments, and managing trash seamlessly. Every sound and movement informed his actions, guiding interventions that supported balance and continuity. Minor adjustments reinforced cohesion and efficiency, sustaining operation while the energy of the evening gradually transitioned from peak intensity to controlled conclusion. The staff and environment worked in unison, preserving the rhythm of the Krusty Krab as it moved toward closure. The air of the Krusty Krab remained warm, dense with heat, and imbued with the lingering energy of sustained activity. SpongeBob's measured rhythm in the kitchen, Squidward's precise management at the register, and Mr. Krabs's attentive oversight created a stable framework within the environment. Patrons moved naturally, their actions absorbed into the flow, each contributing to the ongoing continuity. Minor elements, such as utensils, trays, and trash management, were integrated into the system, reinforcing the evening's final phase of sustained rhythm. SpongeBob maintained his cycle of kitchen tasks with careful timing. Patties flipped, fries were monitored, buns toasted, and trays assembled, each action flowing seamlessly into the next. The kitchen remained structured yet dynamic, dense with heat, steam, and sound, while gradually adjusting to the diminishing pace. Trays moved efficiently to the pickup area, sustaining service continuity and ensuring the dining room remained coordinated even as activity slowly eased. The dining room's movement and sound remained continuous, though softened. Patrons adjusted chairs, balanced trays, and navigated aisles with careful awareness. Overlapping conversations, scraping chairs, and soft utensil clattering formed a layered hum that continued the rhythm while allowing the space to relax. The dining room operated as a self-regulating system, capable of absorbing changes without disruption, ensuring that continuity and cohesion persisted as the night approached its close. Squidward continued to maintain precise control at the register. Each transaction and tray handoff followed a careful sequence, preventing delays. He monitored the pickup area and dining room, adjusting subtly to accommodate the reduced flow. Patrons moved efficiently from collection to seating, while the kitchen continued to supply trays at a controlled pace. The Krusty Krab operated as a synchronized living system, each element integral to sustaining the final phase of the evening. Mr. Krabs maintained oversight of the restaurant, ensuring chairs were aligned, condiments correctly positioned, and trash managed efficiently. Every sound and movement informed his subtle interventions, guiding adjustments that reinforced the cohesion of the environment. Minor actions supported the ongoing pulse, allowing the peak energy to transition into a controlled conclusion while preserving balance and structure. The Krusty Krab now existed in a state of gentle continuity, dense yet gradually relaxing. SpongeBob's rhythm in the kitchen, Squidward's register management, and Mr. Krabs' oversight sustained the final moments of activity, guiding the restaurant smoothly toward closure. Patrons' movements, gestures, and actions were absorbed into the flow, reinforcing the unbroken sequence of service even as the energy softened. Minor elements, trays, utensils, trash, were integrated seamlessly, preserving the integrity of the environment. SpongeBob's precise management ensured the kitchen maintained an efficient, controlled pace. Patties, fries, and buns were handled with meticulous care, trays assembled flawlessly, and service continuity preserved. The kitchen remained dense with activity, yet softened rhythmically to match the tapering flow of patrons. Each action reinforced the evening's final phase, sustaining cohesion and order, and allowing the staff to guide the Krusty Krab naturally toward the close of operations. Squidward's control at the register remained consistent and precise. Transactions and tray handoffs were executed with care, supporting the overall rhythm and continuity. He monitored the pickup area and dining room, ensuring the remaining activity flowed efficiently. Patrons moved smoothly from collection to seating, while the kitchen maintained its controlled output. The Krusty Krab continued to function as a cohesive, synchronized system, each element contributing to the orderly conclusion of the evening. Mr. Krabs continued strategic oversight. Chairs were aligned, condiments adjusted, and trash management maintained seamlessly. Every sound, from register clicks to rustling wrappers and utensil clatter, informed his interventions, ensuring balance and cohesion. Minor adjustments supported the ongoing flow, allowing the restaurant to wind down without disruption. Staff, patrons, and environment worked in unison to sustain the final phase of activity, maintaining the integrity of the system as the night drew to a close. The Krusty Krab's air was warm and dense with the residual energy of the evening. SpongeBob's measured rhythm, Squidward's precise control, and Mr. Krabs's strategic oversight preserved balance and continuity. Patrons moved naturally, their actions absorbed into the flow, each contributing subtly to the final pulse of the restaurant. Minor elements, utensils, trays, trash, were integrated seamlessly, reinforcing the cohesion and structure. The peak of the evening had subsided, yet the flow of activity remained continuous, controlled, and purposeful. SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs maintained the final moments of service with precision. Kitchen tasks were completed efficiently, transactions processed without error, and the dining room maintained its coordinated flow. Patrons gradually finished meals and exited, the remaining sounds forming a gentle, layered hum. The restaurant's rhythm shifted from intense peak to calm closure, preserving cohesion, continuity, and the integrity of the system. Every element, from staff to patrons to environment, contributed to the final phase of activity, allowing the Krusty Krab to wind down smoothly. As the last patrons left and the trays were cleared, the restaurant's energy softened further. The hum of conversation faded, the clatter of utensils diminished, and the mechanical clicks of the register quieted. SpongeBob cleaned the kitchen methodically, ensuring each surface was maintained. The grill wiped, fryers emptied, and counters polished. Squidward organized the register and pickup area, aligning trays and managing remaining utensils. Mr. Krabs conducted a final sweep of the dining room, ensuring chairs were aligned, surfaces clean, and trash managed efficiently. The night concluded with measured precision, a testament to the coordination, endurance, and attention of the staff. The Krusty Krab now existed in a state of calm equilibrium, the peak of the evening fully realized and completed. Every element, kitchen, register, pickup area, dining room, staff, and patrons had contributed to the sustained flow of activity, creating a dense, controlled, and unbroken rhythm that had defined the night. SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs stood as the orchestrators of this living system, guiding the restaurant through the intensity of the evening and into a seamless conclusion. The night had been sustained, managed, and completed with unwavering precision, leaving the Krusty Krab poised for the quiet hours before the next day's rhythm began anew.